Please. This is the City of Highland Park regular meeting of the Plan and Design Commission for June 17th, 2025. And please call the roll.
Commissioner Incheck, Commissioner Fettner. Here. Commissioner Nanis. Here. Commissioner Henry. Here. Commissioner Mantis. Here. Vice Chair Kirsch.
Present.
Chair Moore.
Present.
We have a quorum. I'd like to recognize City Council Liaison Yumi Ross, Corporation Counsel Marcus Martinez. Oh. Everybody okay? Okay. No, there's a different person here. No, it's not. And I'd like to recognize Jack Yellowitz, Summer Associate Corporate Counsel. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. All righty. As always, the first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. So these will be the June 3rd regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I was not at the last meeting, but I did read the minutes. So
Okay.
I'll be voting.
Wonderful.
So moved.
And do I get a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by multiple people. Okay. Any discussion on the minutes? Any corrections? Anything? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? No nays. Okay. So the minutes passed. All right. The first item of business is a public hearing SUP-2025-00008 for a special use permit to establish a conditional use, an open storage yard, towing service with impound lot, and design review variations as appropriate for 2868 Skokie Valley Road. So I will go ahead and read the public hearing opening statement. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. My name is Karen Moore. A quorum of the Plan and Design Commission being present, the members of the Plan and Design Commission will now introduce themselves for the record from my right.
Josh Nanis,
Danny Mantis.
Steve Kirch,
Ken Henry. David Fettner.
The Plan and Design Commission is charged with hearing applications for rezonings, plan developments, and subdivisions under the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations of the City of Highland Park. In all matters, we recommend to the City Council based upon the testimony presented to us in the hearing. We are required to decide cases within 45 days after receipt of the transcript. All testimony is under oath. Both applicants and others who wish to speak on a particular case should present specific evidence as to why a proposal meets or fails to meet the standards for the relief requested. For clarity of our record, only one person at a time will speak and all questions will be directed through the chair. We ask that you make every effort not to be repetitive in your testimony. Finally, we will make every effort to adhere to the schedule prepared. For tonight's hearing, if additional time is needed on a matter, it will be continued until the next available agenda. With that, I open the floor for the staff of the Plan and Design Commission to read into the record proof of publication and ownership.
Proof of publication and ownership are available for viewing at the offices of Community Development, 1150 Half Day Road in Highland Park. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Burhop, will you be presenting to us?
yes, thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you, everyone. My name is Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park at 1150 Half Day Road, Highland Park, Illinois, for the Community Development Department and the Planning Division. So this is a request for a special use permit to allow open storage yard, a conditional land use. It's a towing and impound lots was proposed at this property, 2868 Skokie Valley Road. So this is a Google Street image of the building that's there now, located on the western side of Highway 41, Skokie Valley Road. So first thing of importance, this is in the B3 Highway Commercial Zoning District. Okay, so it's along Highway 41. To the north and to the south are other commercial businesses. To the immediate west is railroad right-of-way, and then to the west of that is Park District land. That's in the R2 zoning district. There is residential neighborhood to the east, but it is across the highway, and then an additional buffer strip right here. Okay, so the proposed use is for essentially a towing and impound lot. This can proceed as a special use permit as an open storage yard. The commission may recall a few months ago or so, this came before the commission for recommendation as an interpretation of the zoning code in the land use section, and then ended up going to the city council. The city council did concur with the commission that this type of use, towing and impound, which is not explicitly listed in section 150.490, the land use tables, and therefore it's not allowed, it's not explicitly listed. And so in order to allow this, the city considered if it was consistent or related as the standards of approval are for the open storage yard, and the commission recommended yes, and the council said yes, and so that's why it's here. And so this map just indicates this is an existing site from our GIS. On the front, around the black area, it's just existing parking, as well as some inventory or storage for, there's a dealership on site. And then on the back in the red is where the applicant proposes to put vehicles that they tow. So they want a separate principal use to operate a towing business, to tow vehicles, and to bring them here. And actually, I need to move through this relatively fast because the applicant did tell me that if they get a call from the police to tow, they need to go. Yes, this, I already stated this, the use interpretation going back to April 2025. Now remember, that was not specifically for this. Staff did let you know, we let you know all what was going on, but that was a general consideration and not specific to this. Okay, so there is no design review with this. I know in the agenda cover it said that. We talked with the applicant. There are no proposed exterior changes. If they come forward to change any signage, they'll just have to get a permit for that. There are no plans to alter the lot or alter the building. The only thing is again, they want to do storage of the towed vehicles in the back. Yes, as already stated, this is proposed to be a separate principal use. There are no public comments. I didn't receive any. That's always a reminder in case we get comments that come in yesterday or the day of. I didn't receive any comments for this. And so that is the recommendation. There are findings of fact. The applicant did ask for those in advance. There is one condition in there related that vehicles or anything that's towed to the site has to be stored in the back. And that's just a staff consideration in terms of impact and what you view in aesthetics as you drive by the property. And so I can take questions if there are any. Thank you.
But they still have cars out front, right?
That's correct. My understanding is that there's a separate principal use there for, we use the colloquial term dealership. It's actually a different phrase in our code. But yes, they do plan to sell vehicles from the site, as well as just there's parking up front too.
How could you tell the difference between the cars? Whether they're in front or in back, how do you know which one's which?
Well, the only thing I can think of on that, because that's a good point, the only thing I can think of is if it's a damaged vehicle that was towed there. I'm not aware of any repair business on site.
Any more questions? Yes.
Carl, is there anything in the code that prohibits the number of vehicles that can be parked on site?
Well, there's an off-street parking requirement for all businesses, but the repark rule would apply to this where there was already a pre-existing use, and this is just a change of use, and so they don't have to have any additional parking. So I don't know, I hope that answers the question.
I guess my question is in terms of like a limitation on how many cars can be parked there rather than
Like
how
a
much
maximum?
parking, yeah. Because it looks like a small space, so I'm just curious,
Yeah.
given that there's no kind of real buffer between that and the neighbor, if that could become an issue down the road.
No, for an existing site, no, there is no maximum on how much you can park or where you can store it. There's no maximum limit. I mean, that's something the commission can definitely consider, given the location of the site, what's appropriate in terms of where it goes, what goes where, et cetera. This is a special use permit. And so because of that, the applicant does have to comply with the 9 standards of approval, which I can go through if the commission wants, but one of those does get to the compatibility with the character of the area.
And if I may, I can just add on that there are parking regulations in the code. They mainly have to deal with how you may park a car, what are acceptable places, what is considered an obstruction. But just in my perusal of the section right now, I've not seen anything that has an upper limit on how many cars can be parked on a property.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add to that too is there's a difference between storage and parking. Off-street parking is actually defined as a 48-hour turnover. What we think of parking is, customers coming and going. Storage is just storing, and that, hence the open storage yard land use.
Got it, thank you.
Any more questions? Would the applicant like to speak? Okay, I'll need to swear you in. So do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name and spell your last name for our minute taker, please.
Mo Hassan, Hasan.
Okay, thank you.
So as Carl said, we are going to be doing auto sales and storing of vehicles in the back. In the back, one of the concerns was how many vehicles. We're not expecting to have more than 10 to 15 vehicles at any given time. Even with that, those vehicles turn around pretty quick. Like right now, I probably would have one vehicle there, but everything moves very quickly that it's out of there before we even know it. As far as the front goes, parking for the dealership, same thing, we're limiting the amount of vehicles that are going to be available for sale. Everything else is going to be auction work. Maybe 2-3 vehicles that might be available to the public for sale. Everything else will be auction only, dealer auction.
All right, do we have any questions for our applicant?
So what do you think the longest time period that a car would remain there? Worst case scenario?
Worst case scenario, maybe a month. That's if the vehicle is abandoned. Say, for example, 41 Highland Park Police calls us, we pick it up and we have to contact the owner. The owner has to, turnaround time with the mail, certified letter. It could take a month to receive something back. That's the only thing that would sit there the longest, maybe a month. After that, after receive the letter back or certified mailing, the vehicle's gone. We don't want it sitting any longer than it has to.
Okay, so cars aren't sitting there for 6-8 months at a time?
No.
Okay.
What if it's an abandoned car?
If it's an abandoned vehicle, like I stated, we have to send out legally a letter to the registered owner. They have to either come pay for the vehicle and remove it. If there's a lien on it, the bank will pick it up. If not, and it hasn't been moved in 30 days, it's pretty much going to be auctioned off. At that point, after all the proceedings go, we will take the vehicle to an auction and get rid of it.
Great. Thank you.
Of course.
Anybody else? Do we have any questions from the public? Alrighty, so we would be looking to adopt the findings of fact approving this change to the zoning code, is that correct?
It would be to recommend, the findings of fact recommending approval of the special use permit.
It's not changing the code. It's not changing the code. It was.
Oh, sorry.
There was an interpretation that was recommended by the commission that went to council, and the council agreed and adopted that. And that's why this application is able to be before you tonight. That's what Carl was saying earlier in the meeting.
Right.
So if I could, Madam Chair, I would move we adopt the findings of fact recommending approval for a special use permit to establish a conditional use and open storage yard, repair and towing service with impound lot at 2868 Skokie Valley Road.
Second.
Okay, so we've had a
Well, with the
motion.
condition that the impounded vehicles be stored in the rear of the property.
Yes.
Although,
And can we just confirm the seconder?
Seconded.
Seconds that?
Yes, and so we had a seconded by Commissioner Mantis. Any more discussion from the commission? Please call the roll, Mr. Fontaine.
Commissioner Fettner,
Yes.
Commissioner Nanis,
yep.
Commissioner Henry,
Aye.
Commissioner Mantis.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirsch.
Aye.
And Chair Moore.
Aye.
The ayes have it. This item has been recommended. The findings of fact have been adopted, recommending approval of this conditional use. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. All right, this this has already been opened, so I don't have to read it again. All right, our next item of business is a public hearing, PUD-2025-00033 for a special use permit in the nature of preliminary and final plan development with amendment to the development agreement. Final plat of re-subdivision, design review, and variations and modifications from city code as appropriate for the proposed townhomes and condominiums for Phase 2 and other improvements at the corner of Laurel Avenue and McGovern Street, including 844 to 768 Laurel Avenue and 1682 to 1652 McGovern Street. So we are reopening that public hearing.
Madam Chair, if you recall, I recused myself from this.
Okay.
There, just to avoid any appearance of impropriety.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Have a nice time downstairs.
We'll come get you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Burhop, are you presenting this one to us again?
Yes.
All right.
Just making a note so we don't forget Commissioner Fettner when this is done.
Who could forget him?
Okay. Good evening again, everyone. My name is Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park. So this is a presentation on the Laurel Park Phase 2 development. And so this is the site on the corner of Laurel and McGovern. And so Phase 1 are the existing townhomes, and then this is what's proposed for Phase 2, the 18 townhomes plus 12 condo units in a condo building on the west side. Okay, and this slide is an old one as well. This just reiterates what's being considered an amendment to the PUD, which will include amending the development agreement as appropriate. PUD just means plan development. Design review is also being considered for this, related to architecture, design, landscaping, exterior lighting, et cetera. There's also a plat of subdivision to consolidate, or excuse me, to re-subdivide. And then the preliminary and final inclusionary housing plan. Actually, a quick comment on that, because I believe my report just said I would present at the, this meeting. This project did receive its final recommendation for approval from the Housing Commission at the meeting that was just a week or two ago. And so I just want to point that out. It was on the 4th. Okay, so this was last here on June 3rd. Okay, a lot of this comes from my report, so if you reviewed the report, these slides are actually just shorter version of the report. So these are just general comments from the commission. Of course, not limited to everything the commission said, but these are the general summary comments. So consider the public benefit in light of the proposed modifications, the response the applicant provided. So they revised the site plan, and I have it in a few slides that depicts a pergola and courtyard area to be proposed for public use that's on the western side of the condo building. And I have another slide on that. Concerned with fire access to the rear townhome units. City, there are comments. I reposted the packet actually with those city comments, and again, I have that in another slide to review. Concerned with the overall street parking provided. So I did look at it. I did look at the whole, staff looked at the entire parking for the whole development. And as a whole, Phase 1 plus Phase 2 complies with the current zoning regs. The overall requirement is for 93 off-street parking units. That's 2 spaces for every unit, whether proposed or existing, and that also is by our current requirements for guest parking for the market rate units that are proposed. And so that overall requirement is 93, and the site as a whole provides 94. I will point out that the development agreement back in 2006 required 99 spaces. So the DA, the development agreement, still have to be amended. So I do want to point that out. There were concerns or questions about the exterior lighting proposed. The applicant did submit additional exterior lighting materials. I'll review that on a later slide. Then question on height relief. And so I have several things to say about height relief in this presentation. But the first thing I'll just point out is that the townhomes that are proposed to be new were reduced by 1 foot, 12 inches, 1 foot. I also attempted to summarize what the attorney for the HOA said. Again, please, these are my summary comments. I let other people speak for themselves. This is a public hearing. Of course, the attorney for the HOA will be allowed to get up here and further elaborate or correct anything I have here. So it was a concern about identifying for the HOA that AC and mechanical units for the townhomes be identified and screened. The staff report pointed out that they did identify the mechanical units on the top and the middle of the condo building. The commission, of course, could consider that this needs to be satisfied as well. Otherwise, mechanical and AC units for townhomes would need to comply with the Article 22 of the zoning code, which is they have to be screened from the right-of-way and from adjacent residential properties. The HOA attorney, in summary, said something about an exhibit further clarifying height. So I'll just provide those leads, the slides in here on that. Decrease height for the townhome units. I believe the HOA attorney said something about 18 inches. What the applicant did was 1 foot. And then the comments about no parking zones for the existing townhome aprons, which as a staff, I don't have any comment on that. I just want the commission to, again, remember in summary kind of what was discussed. Okay, modifications. So the top one has not changed. And so that's the 2.4 inclusionary units not to be provided for the phase 1 portion. And as a reminder, there are 4.8 required for the phase 2. Those are being provided for our proposed in the condo building, and 0.8 are going to be paid out in the payment in lieu. And again, those are for the inclusionary units, those are the affordable units. Oh, right, and then that sub-bullet point should be updated. The Housing Commission also granted final, or recommended final approval is what I should say, so I want to point that out. Okay, height relief. Again, I'll come to this. I have a few slides on this. Yes, it is a modification. I will explain this further, but in short, yes, there is a modification for height incrementally more than what was approved in 2006. That's what I'll say for this slide, but I have a further slide on it. Okay, here I said off-street parking relief for 2 off-street spaces. So that's from the June 3rd presentation. So then I further have gone on to updated that. And in the staff report, it literally said updated. So the site as a whole complies. And so the site as a whole does not need a modification for parking, but I will point out, which I already stated, the development agreement, the DA required 99 spaces, and so that will have to be modified. That's a request. Setback relief that was already granted in 2006, and we've covered setbacks at the other meetings, and there are no changes for this meeting for the setback, so I won't get into that unless there are additional questions, because that's been ground that's been covered at the prior 2 meetings. Lot coverage, that modification has actually been reduced. Okay, site plan. So this is the updated site plan, which is substantially similar to the one that was presented 2 weeks ago. Minor differences, obviously. The one thing I will point out, the takeaway from this one is I just have the courtyard, sidewalk, pergola plus benches, public area. So then the arrow goes up to that. That's to the west of the condo area. And I just want to point out that's what the applicant is proposing as a public benefit. It's meant to be a public area. It's adjacent to the city park there to the west. Okay, height. Okay. So the zoning code defines how height is measured. And height, by how the zoning code defines it, is measured from essentially the average grade of a property. Now, from a technical standpoint, that matters and that's important. What's also important is just the context. What does it look like when you drive or walk by it? And so the first thing I always focus on is just what's the zoning requirement. So this was included in the packet, so anyone can pull this up and zoom in on it, because I know sometimes it's harder to see these on these TVs. Anybody can go to the packet and zoom in on it. And so this red dashed line here is the average grade of the property, and the applicant took the five foot interval. They took elevation points at 5 foot intervals all the way around the buildable area. That exhibits in the packet as well. And so this property, it slopes from high on the east to down on the west. And most of what the applicant is building, not entirely, but most of what they are building is in the middle to the west. And so essentially they're building mostly on the lower areas of the property. And so that has an impact on how the zoning works. And so there's townhomes in the condo building. So for the condo building, this is this gray form here. So the bottom here, you know, that would be, and there's elevation plans I have on the next slide. I mean, if you just walk up to it on the sidewalk or drive by it on a street, what does it actually look like? And so that height, on this exhibit, the applicant listed as 51.5 feet, but I know on the elevation, they listed on 52 feet. So that's just what it looks like if you walk or drive by it. That's the bulk that you see. Now, from the zoning code standpoint, because this is being built at the bottom of a whole site, the zoning height is this dimension here, which is 41.1 feet. Now, the condo building was granted relief in 2006 to go up to 39 feet. And so the incremental difference on that is 2.1 feet. So the condo building needs 2.1 more feet of incremental relief. That is by zoning code definition. For the townhomes, so the gray ones here are what are new, that's 18, and then these are pre-existing. And so again, this red dashed line is what's required by code. And then I drew this dark red line to try to match what the 35-foot height limit was, because in this zoning district, 35 feet is the maximum height. Down here, I was able to actually basically snap the line directly on. On here, I messed with it, but I just couldn't get it quite on the line, so it's just below it. And so what you can see here is a couple things jump out. You'll see as you get down here, the townhomes comply with height, but as you build up, as you go up the hill, obviously they don't. And so there's approximately, I should say approximately, I use the word about, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's about 9 that go above it, and then about 9 that are below. And then I'll just also point out, obviously, that what's pre-existing is also above that as well. But that's just one component. The commission, it's also very important to just remember, well, what is it actually going to look like? So this is an updated elevation plan from the applicant. It's been updated for the townhomes to indicate that it's going to be 37 feet in height as opposed to the 38. And so this attempts to show how the height is following the grade. So, you have the east over here and it comes down to the west and it goes down the hill. And so if you can kind of imagine, that's the bulk you're looking at. And then that top rendering is from June 3rd, but the bottom right one is updated because that shows the new updated sign. The change there, they slightly changed the sign area. I believe the sign area still complies, but they said they're going to go to halo lit, which is allowed. They changed the internal illumination to halo lit. That image on the bottom left, that was there in the previous slides. That just shows what's across the street. And across the street, the buildings are higher. I forgot what the elevation is, but the zoning is different as well. But that's part of the context as well the commission should consider. I think that's all I have to say. Well, there's this slide, but there's no changes for this slide. This slide is, that's an old one. So that's all I have to say about height. Are there any questions about height? Okay, thank you.
One statement.
Oh,
yes.
did I say that?
Across the street, the two buildings, they're two 4-story buildings, Laurel Court 2. They're 51 feet. 4 stories, 51 feet.
Okay.
Just for reference, right across the street from this.
Okay, zoning setbacks, we've already gone through that. There's no changes, so I'll skip over that. Lot coverage, I could not get that to strike out. I don't know why. I tried multiple times. So 44 is what it was. That's now struck. So the lot coverage has been reduced to 40%. Exterior lighting. So the applicant did provide updates. The main takeaway from this is the lighting complies with foot candles, complies with the 3000 Kelvin color correlated temperature. The main thing was on the bug rating, the backlight, the uplight, and the glare. All of them were fine except for there were 2 that showed a U, the uplight of 1. And I looked through the specs and I actually couldn't figure out which one was the uplight. And I even asked the applicant about it. And apparently there were 2 fixtures that have a variable setting where they can have an uplight, but they don't have to. And so if the commission, the commission can certainly ask the applicant to change it, but they could also just condition the approval that those not be set in the uplight and the uplight not be allowed. And that has happened in one development in the last few years. I can think of one where the Park District came in where it was the same thing, where it just had a variable setting and the commission passed a condition that the uplight not be allowed. Okay, landscaping. So basically several changes here. So the fencing that's proposed is the same. Nothing changed with the fencing. The open space has been reduced. And that actually goes back to June 3rd, with the addition of the additional access point to allow more fire access into the property. Just that staff had asked that number be refined. So that number was reduced to the 26.1% open space. Now, I have two things to say about that number. One, it exceeds the 20% limit in code, so that's fine. And then two, I'll point out that the development agreement actually had either a 26 or 26.1% limit. So it's right on the button, but it does meet that. And then staff comments previously were that they had a species list, but we wanted the number of the species. And so they did provide the number. And I actually, staff went ahead and performed the review on, well, what would the requirement be if this was a new development? But I only did it for just phase 2, just to be clear on that. This is just the requirement for phase 2. And so the requirements are there. 47 total trees are needed. The applicant actually is proposing 47 trees. There's blanks on the proposed because the species list, to me, they appear to be all shade or ornamental. And I just didn't have time to verify that with the city forester. And I did talk with the applicant. I know they can talk about that. If the commission has concerns about that, can certainly bring that to the applicant's attention. And then for shrubs, they would be 15 short, and I also discussed that with the applicant as well. I don't think I have any other comments on this slide. Yeah, the landscaping plan itself, the distribution is essentially the same. I guess I should point out that this would be updated. I didn't update this. That should be updated to include the fact that that's going to be like the courtyard with the pergola and the benches and the sidewalk. Otherwise, the distribution of the rest of the landscaping is essentially the same from June 3rd. Fire review comments. So they were included in an updated packet. High level overview, there's some changes where the hydrants need to go. And essentially two ways the applicant can go on either, verifying and ensuring that there's no parking in those spaces that go into the common area, so that way there can be access. So, no parking on these aprons, or these buildings would have to be moved further south. I think that's my presentation. Those are staff comments. Thank you.
All right, do we have any questions?
I have one.
Sure, go ahead, Commissioner Mantis.
So, I'm sorry, Carl. I think we talked about this at one point, and I'm hoping you can refresh my memory. So, we talked about the affordable units and how there were residual affordable units required for phase 2 that were allocated from phase 1. And one of the items of relief being requested is not building those 2.4, correct?
That's right.
And so that's within our purview, whereas in terms of like considering relief requested and public benefit to correspond, whereas like the other stuff is under the Housing Commission, correct?
That is correct. So that first bullet point there under modifications, the 2.4 inclusionary units not to be provided for phase 1 is a commission consideration to make a recommendation on. That is correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Correct. That's where the rest of the housing consideration, where they're located, the amenities, fixtures, things like that, that's in the Housing Commission's bailiwick.
Understood. Thank you.
Any more comments? Carl, would you be able to review the fire issues with us on that,
Well, the gist of it is that the fire trucks have to get back here to serve these south townhome assemblies, as well as the existing ones as well.
Right.
They have to be able to get back there. Though I will point out, the buildings that front on streets can also be accessed by fire services from the front as well. And so we're looking at hydrants and hose lengths, and that's what this exhibit by the applicant attempts to show. It shows hydrants And then hose lengths, forgive me, there's so many codes. I could just give a summary here. I forget the length that the hoses have to go, but of course our staff did review this.
Right.
And then just making sure the fire trucks are able to get back here and to get their hoses to connect. And so the primary comments were these hydrants will have to be relocated so that they can be better accessed by the trucks. And then just making sure that they can move through here, because if cars park in these aprons, that will impact the
Right.
ability of the fire trucks. So I will also remind the commission that when this came in originally, there was only one access point, and so the truck could only do that. As for now, there's a second access point giving the fire truck more access to get in and maneuver.
Okay, and I think there was some discussion on that curb island up on the, if you will, the northeast corner of this south building, right there, yes.
Madam Chair, that is proposed to be removed.
Okay.
Staff had reviewed this for emergency access, and so as Carl pointed out, the existing buildings that front on Laurel and McGovern, they can be accessed by those streets
Right.
adequately. Where the concern comes into play is with regard to the existing foundations, particularly those of the back buildings there. Again, the existing foundations that front on Laurel, they can be accessed from Laurel for fire and
Yes.
life safety. But you can't get to those other buildings back there without adequate access. Thus, the introduction of the additional access way on the left there, on that
Yeah.
portion of the development that wasn't there before. They moved the multifamily building so that the fire apparatus can make those turns and access without backing up that way to go like a complete circle. Similarly, we have to maintain access to the east where there are existing buildings and that proposed set of new townhomes. And there, we need access to that point that is represented by the island there. And there's staff had reviewed this, and adequate access can be achieved by removing that island, that landscape island, moving that fire hydrant in toward the existing foundations and cross-hatching that area. And that would be adequate access to that portion of the development. That way that the fire trucks can get to there and firefighters can do what they need to do. There are two options that were proposed in the staff's report on this matter, and the applicant can choose either one. They're equivalent in terms of what we're trying to address. They can either have no parking on those aprons outside the garages for the existing foundation buildings and that existing building on Laurel. That will provide adequate access at all times in that area. Or they can move the foundations, the existing foundations, they can move that set of townhomes that are proposed south to allow for adequate access. And have to show a plan that maintain that with the parking in the driveways. That's the applicant's choice, and we'd be happy to review either one of those alternatives. Revised plans will be needed to depict that. And that's fire and community development's comments on the fire and life safety access matters.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we all understood that. Excuse me, did you have another comment?
I did not.
Okay. Commissioner Henry?
Carol, I'd like to go back to the inclusionary units again, just so I understand. They were supposed to have 2.4 in phase one, they never built them, and now we're being asked to give them a pass on the 2.4.
That's correct, and my understanding that the Housing Commission did recommend that as well, but yes, that is correct.
But I mean, no units and no money.
That's correct. There's no proposed payment in lieu for that. That is a modification, plain and simple.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, is that it for the commission? Would the applicant like to come up and speak? Do we not have the applicant? Okay. Oh, here he comes. It's all right.
Anthony Oakes, attorney for the applicant. Thank you very much for the staff for the presentation. As Joel mentioned, there was an option about the fire safety and a markup of the site plan was done. I just want to communicate to the commission that we are open to working with staff and accomplishing what was presented in the marked up site plan that was presented to us with respect to the fire safety from the fire chief's comments.
Great. Oh,
Mr. Oakes, have you spoken to the condo, the HOA, about their concerns, which kind of has an impact on this a little bit?
So we did forward the markup and we did forward the plan. Moving the existing foundations is something that we can agree to. So the option that doesn't make us do that is the option that we will work with staff, we will work with the HOA to get that accomplished.
any more questions from the commission?
Mr. Oakes, could you come back for a minute? Sorry.
You always should.
I'm just curious, why should this commission give a pass on the inclusionary units, which would basically reward the original developers? And I know that's not you, okay? So I'm not trying to kill the messenger.
It's okay.
But okay, fair enough. Why should this commission give you a pass on those original units, regardless of what the Housing Commission said? And I understand, I respect their judgment. Those units haven't been built, and there's been no compensation required of it either. It troubles me, frankly.
So as mentioned previously at prior hearings, this project has sit idle for a long period of time. 2006 was when it was originally approved, and I believe the actual completion of the original development that's standing today was 2008-ish, 2007, 2008. And since then, there have been no inclusionary units. Right now, the total site is not in compliance with the underlying development agreement. And it has sat there not in compliance since then of the entire development agreement. It was our goal when we originally came in to step in the shoes of the developer and finish the development, to get this project and site completed. Phase 1 was completed, phase 2 wasn't. We are only completing phase 2. So it's always been from initial request that the code, the inclusionary housing code, apply to the 30 residential units that we are constructing and leave the 12 existing out in terms of just calculating inclusionary. We are doing it, we are paying a payment in lieu of the 0.8. We are doing that. But it's always been our request that the original 12 units do not get included in calculating the updated to complete phase 2.
Would that, if, let's say this commission were to say as a condition of approval that we would either want those units, which I don't think is going to happen, or that we would want a payment for it in line with what the code currently would require, is that a deal breaker?
I would have to discuss with the developer. We would be in communication with staff before I can answer that.
Okay.
Look, I told you could kill the messenger earlier. I'm not willing to be killed by my client. That said, from the beginning, we have been willing to work with this commission and with staff. I mean, there was, as mentioned, there was only one entryway. If this is something the commission is interested in, this is something we can work with staff as well. But we would like, and I don't want to speak for the Housing Commission. That's not my role. It was advised at that commission that, okay, when we give our recommendation, the findings of fact were done, when we give our recommendation to City Council, we would like to prepare a narrative that explains how we got to this position. And, you can check me on the video about that. And the reality is, we had 3 meetings and we worked with the commission each time, modifying plans, submitting updated floor plans, doing what needed to be done to address their concerns. And we showed an openness and willingness to do that. I hope that's considered when looking at, from the PDC's perspective, the inclusionary, because it wasn't as if we got here yesterday. It took a lot of work from all parties to get to the point that we're at. And again, we've shown a willingness, and we still will, to work with this staff and work with this commission to get this phase 2 completed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mantis?
If I can add on to that, there's been a lot of changes, so I'm very appreciative of it. As I look through the list of relief requested, right, to Commissioner Henry's point, the loss of those 2.4 inclusionary housing units feels weighty, right? And so then I look at what the public benefit being offered, knowing that the project itself cannot be considered a public benefit. Of course. And, I struggle whether, a pergola and benches is enough to actually meet that list of relief being requested. And so I'm generally, I think this is in a great spot. I just hope that it can be in a better spot where I can feel really good about it.
Well, we want you to feel really good about it. That's why we've been working at it. That's why the client has been spending money to get to this point, and we want you to feel really good about it. I will say that right now you drive in from Deerfield Road and you get to that intersection, and right now there's an existing arch and a couple benches, and it stands alone. And I think the idea is that originally, different commission, different group, but back in 2006, when this was approved, the open space area was approved as the public benefit. That was what was approved. That's what it was in the original development agreement. When we added the second driveway, we had to move a little bit into that open area, but that was to accommodate everybody's concerns and to address the flow of the site. Adding what we are adding to the open space area, again, I'm an architect. I mean, I'm not an architect, I'm an attorney, but it does consistently open the streetscape with the existing arch. And I think it allows traffic to kind of go through what's there to what our open area will be to our site. I hope some consideration is given to that, especially given what was originally approved as the public benefit in 2006.
So, yeah, I agree with my colleagues here. We've lost the 2.4 units, right? That's just gone. And that doesn't, one way, I suggested this, I think, last time. I would sure like to see, of the 4 inclusive units you are doing, 2 of those be townhomes. We're not getting many townhomes in the inclusionary program. I don't know what was discussed at the Housing Commission, whether they thought of that option or not, but that would go a long way to making me feel better about it. And in general, I'm actually fine with the benefit and the relief. I don't think we can hold it against you that you move that building so that people don't die in fires. I mean, that's, I will take a little less open space. And what most of the other things that we're dealing with here are, in my opinion, we've already kind of settled this whole height issue in this area, and I don't think these are overly burdensome requests beyond the niggling bit about the inclusionary housing.
If I just may, again.
Sure.
The inclusionary housing, when they passed they approved their findings of fact, they did want to emphasize the work that we did to get to the point that we're at. And I just hope that's considered. Thank you.
I have a quick question. So.
Sorry, I don't mean to be like that. I appreciate all you guys' comments.
Shifting gears, there was a lot of talk about the positioning of the air conditioning units on the top of the condo and on top of the townhouses. And there was a concern that the people in the existing townhomes would have to look at them. I know I think most of those units are invisible to the passersby, but I don't know, Carl, if you wanted to pull up, is it Article 22? That indicates that they must be clear from the or, hidden from the neighbors as well, which I think the old unit or the existing townhomes would be neighbors.
Would you like me to follow up with that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so the requirement is that all ground-mounted mechanical equipment shall be screened by a solid fence wall or densely planted evergreen landscape planting at a maximum height sufficient to obscure such equipment from view from all adjacent streets and adjacent lots used for residential purposes. I'll just point out that
So
says
did that
ground.
say ground unit?
I was just gonna point
Okay.
out, this is ground-mounted mechanical equipment. There's also a requirement for screening for rooftop as well. That's in the design review section. I can pull that up
Okay.
next.
And that's usually screening from the ground.
The requirement, Chair, would you like me to also
Yes,
quote the
please.
rooftop? So the
Please do.
requirement in the design review section is that mechanical or other utility equipment, mechanical and utility equipment located on the roof or exterior of a building shall either be screened from view from public rights of way with materials harmonious to the building or located as not to be visible from public rights of way or residential zoning districts.
Okay. But that's from public rights of way, correct?
Yeah, I said from public rights of way or residential zoning districts, correct.
Does that mean residential districts in their residences or?
Yes, all these are all located, all these to the north, the subject site, and to the south are all residential zoning districts.
Yes. I guess I'm still, does it mean from inside the building or from the ground level in those districts?
They need to be screened from view.
Okay. Okay, so, have we you were here to talk about the AC screening then perhaps?
Only if you'd like to hear from me.
Well, yes, since I brought it up.
A preamble in terms of the housing, if I can go back at the risk of this and going back to the inclusionary housing.
Can you please restate your name?
I'm sorry,
for
Mark
our-
Korinsky, HKM Architects and
Okay.
Planners. We had countless conversations with them, and if you recall, another project we came in, we said with the raw land, we will completely comply with the inclusionary, and you got 3 townhomes on that project. The differential, since we're paying for the 0.4 here, is the 2. And we had numerous conversations with them. The 4 that we are giving them, or giving you, or giving the community, are all 3-bedroom units, okay? By ordinance,
yes.
we're supposed to have 2 2-bedroom and 2 3s. They asked, hey, what can you do? We've moved them to different floors. We actually gave them an option to give them a 4-bedroom. And they said, no, they like the layout of the 3-bedroom. So it may not be perfect because we are working with this existing foundations, everything else, but our team really tried. So the plan in front of you, and I'm not saying 2-unit differential, 2 bedrooms is the same thing, but we were trying. Okay, it may be enough for you, it may not. I just want you to know we really, really tried. In terms of the air conditioners, which is what you asked the question, we are doing the same thing that was done in phase 1. The site falls off 30-some feet. And if you remember last time I was here, how you screen something when it's such a differential. So if you look at phase 1, the units are not screened either from the stuff to the north side, those 51-story or foot buildings to the north, but they're put in the middle of the roof. And if you look at an air photo, Google, Bing, whatever, you can see that they're there. That is what we are proposing for phase 2, a completion of just what was done in phase 1. If you want us to put a little screen around it that's 4 foot high, it is going to screen it if somebody comes and stands on the roof and, sits down. But other than that, it's almost impossible to be, screening this, from a practical standpoint. So we looked at it, we looked at complying with the code, the first part, and we added and amended the architectural plan to show standing on the north sidewalk across the street, across Laurel, you will not see these units, okay? But the existing homes are substantially higher as they're up in the air. The ones on, the south one on McGovern is a 4-story at that point, as you hit the site, the internal part of the site. You can't screen it. So with all due respect, we're trying to comply both with the intent of the code, the realities of life, and then what was happening in phase one. If you want us to put a little 4-foot skirt around it, we'll put a 4-foot skirt around it, but it's not going to screen when you're looking down 10 or 20 feet down from a window.
Right, I agree. So,
Can I run away now, or?
we aren't even asking hard questions. It was brought to my attention that one option for public benefit is doing like green roofs, so I don't know if that would be considered for this project to improve public benefit, or are we okay with the public benefit as it is now? Commission seems iffy.
I'm okay with it.
Okay. I guess I'm okay at this point as well. Okay, do we have any members of the public that would like to come up and speak?
Good evening. My name is Cal Bernstein. I was previously sworn. Some members of the HOA may also want to speak with regard to this. Let me begin by thanking the developer for making some significant changes to the proposal. We are getting close to the end zone, but we feel that we're not there just yet. We really want to talk about two potential conditions that we'd like to be included with the approvals if this commission decides to recommend this development to the city council. And there's still one concern, but I'll let the homeowners address the concern. So with regard to the AC units and the mechanicals, this is a very unique site. There's a significant slope going east to west, and we feel that anything that would help with the screening, anything, whether it's 4 feet or anything, would be an improvement than just leaving these as just bare units. We're requesting that there be screening of the mechanicals and AC units on the roof of the new townhomes. The condo buildings a block away, so that's really not relevant. The second is with regard to the comment that we just received last night from the fire department with regard to the existing guest parking spaces that now have to be moved further to the south. We would like that's fine with us. We would like, obviously, that the expense of moving those guest parking spaces will be borne by the developer, number one. And number two, we would request that a wrought iron fence be placed on the south side of that new parking lot that's going to be constructed. So there's a walkway right there. So between the parking spaces and the parking spaces and the walkway, and that would be done at the developer's expense. And with regard to height, that's our concern still. So I'm going to turn it over to the unit owners, especially the ones that were materially impacted, and they can explain it. And I believe if you haven't been sworn in, make sure you tell them if you haven't. Okay.
Jerry Dardick, and I've been sworn in 2 times ago.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm 1652. Today, we've been asking for 2 meetings to someone to define how you read the grade and the 35 feet, 37 feet, whatever they're asking for. At this meeting this morning, tonight, I found out that the grade is read, as the building department calls for it, as an average from the corner down the center. You had it up on the screen, showed how it was read, and they're asking for compensation to allow that to go from the grade of the actual buildings where they're staying, would be the 004, okay? If you go by the way it's pitched and they're granted the 37 or 38, whatever that is, it is going to substantially block the units on the east side, okay? Only because of the dichotomy of the site and where your starting point is. And I don't know if we have enough time to address it as all 12 homeowners out there. The 3 homeowners that are impacted are right here. But the bottom line is, if we can find a way for those first 3 units or 4 units to not start at that high point of the ground, and then give them the 37, okay, maybe those go back to 35, I don't know. But that's my opinion.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Yeah, I have not been sworn in.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
What's your name,
Edie
please?
Sternberg.
Okay, and please spell your last name.
E-Y-D-I-E. The last name is Sternberg, S-T-E-R-N-B-E-R-G. And I'm at 1654, and I am heavily impacted.
Could you come speak into the
Sorry,
microphone, please?
I will be heavily impacted, so I agree with everything with Mr. Dardick. Those extra 2 feet really would make a huge difference. So I'm hoping that somehow we can reach some sort of an agreement about the extra height they're requesting.
I have not been sworn in.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And your name, please?
Audrey Cohen, C-O-H-E-N, and I'm at 1656, so I live next to those two. So I will also be impacted by the height, so not going to reiterate everything they say, but I'm very interested in it not being so high as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sharon Shapiro, and I'm in the Laurel end where the L is. And
were you sworn in previously?
No, I swear to tell the truth.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so my concern is they're at the height, we're at the L. And literally with those 2 extra feet on all my decks, I'm going to be looking into all of their decks and their height is higher. So I'm worried it's gonna look like uneven bars. Because our buildings are lower now and they're gonna be higher and we're gonna be looking right into them. So, and the parking is also a huge concern too, because we're not gonna be able to park behind us or on the parking on the side, that I lose all my parking for family and just even when we wanna like pull a car out and wash it or something. It's a huge impact because you can never park in front of the street because our side of the street has free parking and it's now paid parking on the other side of Laurel. So it's always blocked. So it's a concern.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson, Commission, Council Member, and Mr. Fontaine. Thank you very much for taking the time. I'm a resident of Highland Park and live in that same complex. I've lived in Highland Park 60 years and enjoyed everything of our city and the concern.
What's your name, sir?
Eric Spitzer.
Okay, thank you.
768 Laurel. 2 concerns. One, in meeting with the fire chief, who was outstanding as well, I asked him about the current equipment and the new equipment that will be addressing the city at some point because of the new buildings that we're fortunate enough to have on the downtown area, which I know they've raised the height on the Central McGovern building and they've raised the height on several others. And we are serviced by that same station on Central Avenue. So we're concerned about the new equipment that will be coming in and the radiuses available for that new equipment. So if you would, please, again, check through with the fire department. They're terrific and we're concerned about that. Secondly, the height. Could you put that slide back on about the Laurel Avenue site of the buildings from McGovern there? Not that one. The other one that showed, yeah, that one. So if you take a look at the height on these, and I'm not sure how you measure the heights, but if you're going to dwarf the buildings that are currently there, as it appears here, what does it happen to the second row as well? So we have some visuals that we need to be concerned with, and we'd like to address them with the proposed developers and the city again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, just to quickly summarize.
Sure.
In 30 seconds. The concern that what I heard from the HOA was with regards to the southern building, the new structure, those first couple townhomes right there, because there's a concern about those and the height variance on those. Obviously, the ones down the hill is a different matter, as Senior Planner Burhop mentioned, those are most likely compliant because, under the zoning code as they are, because of the slope of the property. But it's those first couple units that raise the concerns. So, thank you very much for letting us,
Thank you.
present tonight.
I would have the question then, Carl, how tall are the buildings that are there now in the phase one portion?
Right,
And are they out of compliance?
right, well, so this is the applicant's exhibit here. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 townhomes on the northeast section exceed the zoning height limit as well. And
So
because they're on the hill, they're also just higher up as
So
well.
those are the existing ones?
The existing homes are 35 feet. And when you're looking at grade, so if you're looking at the property at grade, those are 35 feet. And correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is those are 35 and the applicant is asking for 37 feet.
Yeah, I mean, according to the applicants, and this is the applicant's exhibit again, the applicant's exhibit indicates those existing townhomes are 35.5 feet.
So my question is, please put that slide back on.
This
one? Second, yeah. So the appearance, and I'm going by the appearance, I'm not an architect, but the appearance looks like the buildings to the west are overshadowing the buildings to the east. Now, maybe that's a visual, and I don't know how that affects the row in the back. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Okay. Director Fontaine. Director Fontaine, did you have a
Carl, could
comment?
Yeah, so can you pull up that other exhibit? Yes, that exhibit. So this exhibit illustrates what the gentleman was just asking about. So you have the multifamily building there, section A, and you see that it's taller than the new townhomes that will be built that are in gray there next to it. And then you see the existing townhomes that are taller than those townhomes, the middle townhomes also.
Yes.
Similar to the multifamily building. So what will be smaller will be the new townhomes on the existing foundations out there along Laurel. That's what that's showing. Carl, which line is the zoning height limitation line shown in this or depicted in this?
Right, so this would be this dark red line.
So that's the height limitation for the district.
Right,
So the existing homes exceed that.
right.
The new proposed homes on those existing foundations in the middle there, those townhomes, Carl explained what relief they'll be asking for. And similarly, the multifamily, you see there that there's relief as well.
Right, I mean, the site,
It falls off quite a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
so yeah, from a zoning standpoint, again, taking the whole, phase one and phase two, the whole site, and there's grade on this, and sometimes the zoning board of appeals gets this more than the plan and design commission, but how height and grade are defined has an impact on how this is done. And so from a staff standpoint, we always try to say, what is the zoning code requirement? But we also give the context as well, because it matters just how you're out there and how it looks as well.
Right, and the buildings across the street, I think we said are like 51 feet tall?
Correct, 2 of them, 4 stories, 51 feet.
Okay.
So the number of feet between that nearest townhome and the multifamily building, Carl, the number of feet difference between the heights on those two in terms of the buildings?
Forgive me,
What are we
you're
saying?
talking about this one?
This one, the multifamily building, and then the nearest townhome.
This one?
Yep.
The difference on that?
Yeah, what's the height of that building there?
Well, 37 feet, but that would be from-
37, and
yeah,
the
but-
other one is 51?
Well, so this height from where.
What's the difference between the two buildings in height in terms of that roof line to roof line?
From the difference between this gap here?
Yep, and there.
37. I would want to look at it. I don't want to give a wrong answer.
I think perhaps the architect can answer for us. Please come up.
Describe that part of the exhibit there.
Here, and the section you're seeing, it's about 10 or 15 feet differential.
So it's a story.
So, and we've been trying to answer to everybody and trying to be very open and honest and trying to move as much as we can. If you look at the right side of this exhibit, if you look at that south line, several of these people, voiced a concern, which we understand, which is the McGovern. They live on McGovern. Those units are 4 stories when you're inside this house, inside the site. Okay, so those units, if you look on the right side, see in the far right, there's a white box right there. That's the McGovern units. So those units are, if you measure from the red line, just as a baseline, those are about 57 feet high, and our units are going to be about 46 feet high. So they're already, because that 4th floor, 11 feet, another floor. So they're already looking out over. So, we're asking for 2-foot relief based upon current design standards and insulation and, soundproofing, whatever we want to do, in 9-foot ceilings instead of 8'6". That's all why we're asking for that 2-foot relief. But there's still, those units on McGovern are 11 feet high. So their 3rd floor is looking way out over, and their 2nd floor, which is basically at our 3rd floor. I don't know if that helps or confuses everybody, but that's sort of what that section is showing you.
Yeah, it falls away.
But that's not McGovern House, that's the phase 1 units on.
Yeah, that's the phase 1 units, these residents that were concerned about the height and looking, they're a full story taller.
Yes.
So our units are looking at a 4-story building and they're looking at the side of a 3-story building.
Right, over the top of it.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do we have any more questions for the applicant? Questions for the applicant? Oh.
There were other items the HOA brought up regarding moving the parking spaces per the fire chief's comments south. We agree at our expense. This is our project. We will agree to move them south. Adding the fence at our expense as they propose. We agree. Haven't seen the plans yet, but what they're requesting, but yes, within reason, we agree. I want to just communicate that.
Okay, thank you, that you heard it, yes.
Yes, and regarding the screening, to get everyone comfortable, we agree.
Okay.
So.
Okay, we do not yet have findings of fact for this.
It's all the relief request. So Madam Chair, through you, so through that exhibit, it's showing that there's a height relief that for the first phase, that through you to Carl, I don't know, was discussed and granted as part of the original approval. I mean, we're going to look at that and look at the then code from 2006 because that may need to be added to the request.
Okay.
Is before you, just like the 2.4 unit affordable housing modification is about that phase 1. There may be additional relief needed for phase 1. I mean, just get it all right. And,
yes, I agree.
Right. So why we say may is because we want to redouble efforts to look at the approval documents to see if there's anything about that. Not thinking there is based on what staff has said. And then 2, that the zoning code was the same at the time of that approval. And so if it is, then, the average grade that we use in the method to determine that would dictate that would need relief to the height of those units.
Yes, I agree. Sure, come on up, Mr. Burke.
I just have a suggestion, because it sounds like this is going to come back, and there seems to be some misunderstanding, or just not a meeting of the minds with regard to how that's going to look. So maybe the developer can create another exhibit where it kind of shows where the existing townhomes are on McGovern as it slopes down towards what he's proposing, and how it kind of impacts the existing townhomes. 'Cause I think that, I don't know if this exhibit does it justice. So I think maybe that's something that they could try to work on, to try to show us, because they're saying one thing, the HOA's seeing something else, and I think maybe a clear exhibit may be helpful with regards to that.
That would be great if
A
we could
rendering of that
see
street
a
view.
rendering
Yeah.
of all the buildings in the in the development.
Yeah, thank you.
Phase 1 and 2, so that we understand how they're coming down, because phase 1 already looks like it already received a variation, so why shouldn't phase 2 be allowed to get a variance? And I would think, those extra townhomes were already planned in phase 2 when phase 1 was built and sold, so. Okay, so do we have enough information to go on? Does the applicant have enough information to go on for the next meeting? So I would suggest that we continue the meeting
Continue the public hearing, yes, absolutely.
to, continue the public hearing, sorry, to, a date certain. Is there a date that the applicant would like?
Yeah, so just to recite what we're looking for, and
Yes.
Carl has something to say after. So we're looking for that rendering of the street,
Yes,
the existing homes that are there, townhomes, and the proposed, so that we could really see how
so we
it
can
will
see the
look.
heights.
Correct. And then we're looking for a revised set of plans depicting the changes in one of the two options that were provided
For the
by the
fire.
Department of Community Development and Fire Department with regard to emergency services and fires access.
Plus, we've also seen an agreement for the air conditioning units to have a surround on them. For the parking, the guest parking spots that are being moved will be
Yep,
moved.
it's part of the plan, yeah.
Okay,
That would be part of one of the two options that they choose. If they're choosing that one, that needs to be shown as well. That's
Okay.
depicted. We've hand-drawn that on a set of plans so they can see what we were referring to.
okay. And then, but that it would be done at the applicant's expense as well as the fence that was requested. So it'd be nice to see that on a plan so that we know what we're all talking about.
Sure, a note on the plan in that way, okay.
Okay, so,
I think there's
Can we-
questions, and I think Carl had something to say as well.
Okay, so-
There's a question from Councilman.
I'm sorry, question.
Councilmember Ross had a question.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask if, as in general, if it's possible, I'm not asking this of the chair, I'm asking it of staff, whether applicants can, in general, be asked for more context elevations that show more context. Because in my time, I'm new as liaison but I was the alternate, and I've seen this before, where it just would be helpful to see more context in the elevations.
Yes, in general,
Yes,
that would be
in
helpful.
this space, in this particular case, absolutely, yes, and I understand. Okay.
Okay, so would staff like to propose a date?
Chair, I was just going to state, the next regularly scheduled meeting is here, 7 PM, Tuesday, July 15.
I think that's good.
Is this our third meeting on this, right?
Correct.
So,
Possibly, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we probably have a lot of conditions to add, but maybe we should ask for a draft finding of facts so that this doesn't drag on for another 2 months.
What was that? I'm sorry. Okay, the applicant would like to see findings of fact as well at the July 15th meeting. And does the July 15th work for the applicant?
We'll make it work.
Okay. All right, so can I get a motion to,
So then, Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, you
I would like to move that we direct staff to prepare findings of fact recommending approval of a special use permit in the nature of a preliminary and final plan development with an amendment to the development agreement and final plat of re-subdivision with variations and modifications from the city code for for the proposed townhomes and condominiums for Phase 2 and other improvements at the corner of Laurel and McGovern, including the addresses.
But I think we're also looking for a continuance of the hearing to that date.
And this time I didn't put the design review in there, you noticed that, Marcus, right?
So I guess we'll do the vote first on the direction and then the continuation thereafter?
You can do them both at the same time.
Okay.
It sounds.
And that we continue this matter to our next meeting, regularly scheduled meeting on July 15th.
Yes.
Second.
Second, is this a voice vote?
Voice vote.
Even with the direction? Direction too.
Yep, so directed to draft findings of fact and continue to July 15th.
Yes.
Yep.
Voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, so that matter was continued till July 15th, so
So this matter has been continued to July 15th, 7 PM, City Hall, City Council Chambers, that's this room. There'll be no new notice. Your notice is actual this evening.
thank you, everybody, for
Thank you.
coming, and as you leave, please keep your voices down until you get outside, because the noise does waft up here to the room and we can't finish our business.
Don't trip on the stairs.
And don't trip on the stairs. And if your car was left open, I hope it's not raining.
Tell Commissioner Fettner he can return
Oh, yeah,
from exile.
I think Marcus will want to, he'll figure it out.
People coming out.
Okay.
50-50, all right?
Oh, my God. You have no idea.
Okay. All right, our next item of business is public hearing SUP 2025-00007 for an amendment to a special use permit in the nature of a planned development, a special use permit to establish a conditional use, a community living facility, and design review and modifications from city code as appropriate at 1651 Richfield Avenue. Since it is a new public hearing, I will read the statement. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. My name is Karen Moore. A quorum of the Plan and Design Commission being present, the members of the Plan and Design Commission will now introduce themselves for the record from my right.
Josh Nanis.
Danny Mantis.
Steve Kirch.
Ken Henry.
David Fettner.
The Plan and Design Commission is charged with hearing applications for rezonings, plan developments, and subdivisions under the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations of the City of Highland Park. In all matters, we recommend to the City Council based upon the testimony presented to us in the hearing. We are required to decide cases within 45 days after receipt of the transcript. All testimony is under oath. Both applicants and others who wish to speak on a particular case should present specific evidence as to why a proposal meets or fails to meet the standards for the relief requested. For clarity of our record, only one person at a time will speak and all questions will be directed through the chair. We ask that you make every effort not to be repetitive in your testimony. Finally, we will make every effort to adhere to the schedule prepared. For tonight's hearing, if additional time is needed on a matter, it will be continued until the next available agenda. With that, I open the floor for the staff to the Plan and Design Commission to read into the record proof of publication and ownership.
Proof of publication and ownership are available for viewing at the Offices of Community Development, 1150 Half Day Road in Highland Park. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Read that a whole bunch tonight. Okay. All right, Mr. Burhop, are you presenting to us for this item?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park in the Community Development Department in the Planning Division. So this is a plan development amendment plus a special use permit to establish a community living facility at 1651 Richfield Avenue. So this is the location of the site, just across the street from the police station. You're right, so it's an amendment to the plan development and a special use permit to establish the conditional use. I do want to point out the applicant did ask for findings of fact, and so those are included in the packet with two conditions if the commission deems appropriate. This project is to establish housing for adults with developmental disabilities. This is a Google Street View of the property there right now, back from August of last year. So quick background on this.
So this site had a plan development approved back in September of 2011, along with a development agreement for a long-term care facility. Also point at the time it was zone B3 highway commercial. And so, since the property was rezoned to B4 BG, and in that zoning district, a community living facility is a conditional use. This proposed amendment would strike the long-term care facility use, replaced with this new use, the community living facility. I will also point out the applicant states they performed a neighborhood meeting on Tuesday, May 14th, and I had notes on that in the packet that the applicant provided me. Project analysis. So we just got a quote from the code. What is a community living facility? I won't read that off. That's a bulk of text that was in the staff report. Then I have what the applicant states, which I will read quickly, and this is from their narrative. The applicant states the facility was intentionally designed with communal spaces, which CCHI will use for art, music, fitness, reading, sensory engagement, and shared meals. This eliminates the need for individual cooking within units and supports a lifestyle that encourages connection, creativity, and structure. So that's a brief statement I took from the applicant's narrative, briefly describing the use. There was a narrative in the packet that described the use in a little more detail. So I guess I have a few more details on this. So the applicant states there will be 50 suites within the building, ranging in sizes from 380 square feet to 850 square feet, along with the aforementioned communal spaces. No code modifications are requested. This is a use consideration. Again, I had put in the agenda design review, reviewed the application, got to the end of the applicant's not proposing any exterior changes. So there's no design review. There are no changes proposed. If they change the signage, they'll have to get a sign permit. And if they change anything to the exterior, they'd have to come back. I did provide brief parking analysis in the staff report. The main takeaway is that per that section 150-802 sub C, the repark rule applies, so no new parking spaces are required because there's no expansion of the building, there's no addition to the building. However, it's still, it's still a standard of approval that has to be reviewed since this is a conditional use. So the site does have 50 off-street parking spaces and is required to maintain that by current condition in the ordinance from 2011. I provided brief analysis in the staff report. One question Commission could ask if the applicant knows the occupancy, because the parking requirement would be 0.1 of the occupancy plus whatever staffing was on site. That would be the parking requirement if the repark rule didn't apply, and that was in the staff report. And I think I just gave some estimate, if there's 50 units and every unit had 3 people, that's 150. 0.1 of that is 15. So this gives you an idea of how many spaces they have. The applicant also provided in their narrative that I think the applicant used 98% of the residents will not drive. So conditions of approval. To be clear, these are from 2011. And so that does have to be cleaned up. All of this was in the staff report. And so staff would just, I can run through them real quick. So A is a standard condition to be updated as appropriate if this is approved. Condition B1 is a standard condition. Condition B2 has to do with the plans in the ordinance. At a minimum, have to strike the floor plans. Those will no longer be relevant. Condition C had to do with phasing. That can be struck because it's already built. The building's already built. D has to do with providing at least 50 off-street parking spaces on site. Staff would recommend that stays the same unless the applicant makes argument as to why that should not be the case. Condition E had to do with refuse and recycling on site. I mean, if the applicant changes any of the garbage bins or anything that would require design review, so staff defer to the applicant on condition E. Condition F has to do with the way vehicular ingress and egress occurs on the property and signage related to that and striping related to that. Staff would suggest that stays the same or not. The applicant can respond. The bicycle racks, it's a condition back in 2011 that be provided on the front and rear. Staff would recommend that remain, again, unless the applicant states otherwise, and they can give their statement. H had to do with locating visitor parking closest to the building and employees further away. Staff has no reason why that should change. Condition I, we defer to the applicant on any update on that at the time. So condition I has to do with the property owner uses best commercially practicable efforts and cooperate in good faith to secure cross-access and, that's a typo, parking rights necessary for the use of parking lots on nearby commercial properties. Oh, sorry, two types of that, properties for overflow parking. And so that was a requirement. Then it got to, if there was overflow on the subject site, that they had to secure, well, to the commercially practicable effort to secure cross easement and cross access to nearby properties. Then J had to do with, there's a condition with cooperating with local hospitals and healthcare providers to coordinate services on site. We wonder if that's still relevant. And then also K, remember, this is from 2011, that the then applicant, if they enter any agreement or lease with any patient, tenant, or resident of the facility for the provision of services or use of the property, that provision should not, does not terminate upon the death of that person be struck. And the new conditions, these are just in the staff report for the commission to discuss, can be modified or struck as appropriate. The applicant will use a community space to provide shared meals, and that just gets the definition of the use, that they must provide some combination of those things: guidance, supervision, training, and other assistance to disabled adults, and which residents are required to participate in day activities, which may include vocational training, sheltered workshops, or regular improvement. And that's actually just mostly from our definition for a community living facility. That's my presentation, if there are any questions.
All right, thank you. I'm just gonna make the comment that this type of housing is being sought in many communities, and other communities have already moved ahead with it. And I know of members in our own community who were looking for this for their own family members, so I'm glad to see this coming along. Do we have anybody from the commission have any questions for Mr. Burhop, for staff? Okay, is the applicant here, would like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Double header, so.
We're not wasting your time.
Double header, so.
All right,
For the
since
record,
you are new to this
Yes.
hearing, do you swear to tell the
Yes.
truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
Yeah,
truth?
thanks. Yes, I do.
Okay.
For the record, my name is Cal Bernstein. I'm the attorney for the applicant. And usually I like make a nice presentation, but there's really nothing else for me to say. We, as the applicant, accept the conditions that are set forth in the staff report. In addition, with regard to the 2011 approval and the conditions, we agree with staff that the items that they want us to keep, that we'll keep, and the ones that should be struck. And I thought if you would indulge us for at least 2 minutes, and we can have the applicant come up and just explain how this is going to operate. I told her to keep it at less than 2 minutes. So if you just give her 2 minutes, because I think this is we're very excited about bringing this to Highland Park, and we want the Plan Design Commission to hear from the applicant exactly how this is going to operate and what a great thing this is going to be, what a great amenity for this community is going to be. So Lori, why don't you come up? You have to get sworn in.
Okay, your name, please?
Lori Williams.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having us. I promise I'll be very brief.
That's fine, we're fine.
So I'm Lori Williams. I'm the founder and the executive director of CCHI. We are a nonprofit that was founded in 2019 by families, disability advocates, real estate professionals, all to address the lack of accessible, affordable housing for adults with disabilities to stay in their home community. Our mission is simple but vital. We want to create a space where adults with disabilities can live, work, and socialize together with the supports that they need. For 8 years, we have been working on finding an opportunity that was right for Highland Park and our families. And we are very fortunate that we have found 1651 Richfield. We have partnered with HODC and Michael Weiss in our renovations for the building. What was 64 beds, we are making into 50 units that are accessible, sensory friendly for all of our family members. They are all studios or 1 bedroom. So this is not 2 and 3 bedrooms. Every person is going to have their own suite, their own private bathroom. This project will allow our loved ones to stay in the home community with the supports that they choose, living close to their families, work, job training, and programs that they are very familiar with. The parking and exterior will stay the same. Truthfully, only 2 of our residents drive, and there are 50 parking spots.
Parking shouldn't be an issue at all. And the bike racks are there, and we do have some avid bikers that are very excited about using the bike path. We are very proud to fill this critical gap in our community. Repurposing this closed building for almost 2 years is a great opportunity for our whole community, and we are very proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I just have one, I'm just curious, when do you think it'll be open?
We're open for April.
April, great, thanks.
I have one question, and it's really more for our meeting next week, but I'm assuming the residents will be free to come and go as they please?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Any more questions? Do we have any comments from the public? Someone inching up here to the front, all right.
Hi, my name is Lori Broutman, Broutman.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask you what FOF stands for?
Findings of fact.
Oh, findings of fact. And I welcome this facility, and I just want to ask, are there any other similar facilities in other nearby communities that, just for reference?
Aurora actually has one.
Aurora?
Weston Bridges.
You have to get
Okay, so Lori.
We have a lot of people watching at home on TV, so I want to make sure they can hear.
So Ms. Williams, we will allow her to speak first because she's only got 3 minutes, and then we'll answer the questions.
That was all I had.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, why don't you come up?
There is another community in Aurora that is called Weston Bridges that is somewhat similar to this.
Okay. I believe there's one in Wheeling as well. There's maybe one in Wheeling as well. Or
I
Glenview.
think that there is some supported housing there, but it's not quite the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any more public comments, questions? All right, so we would be, there are already findings of fact here, so we would be looking for a motion to adopt those findings of fact, recommending approval. Can I get a motion?
Go ahead, Steve.
Madam Chair, if I,
They're busy here on the left.
if I may, I would move, we adopt the findings of fact, recommending approval for an amendment to a special use permit in the nature of a planned development, special use to establish a conditional use, a community living facility, at 1651 Richfield Avenue with the conditions, as amended in the staff report.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded. All right, Mr. Fontaine, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fatner?
Aye.
Commissioner Nanis?
Aye.
Commissioner Henry?
Aye.
Commissioner Mantis?
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirsch?
Aye.
Chair Moore?
Aye.
The ayes have it, motion carries. This item has been recommended for approval.
Thank you, looking forward to it.
To the City Council, thank
If I
you.
could, I would just like to say that I am very excited about this facility. Illinois, as many of you know, is sadly lacking in taking care of young adults who age out of the system. As someone who's been involved in education in the city of Highland Park since the mid-'80s, it was depressing to me to see the lack of facilities for these members of our community. As being someone who put together an initiative between the Chamber of Commerce and True North, which is the special education district that serves Highland Park, the Chamber, along with the city and True North, has been working very hard to assist this community. And to see this facility coming online is a wonderful thing, and hopefully the rest of the state will get the idea that this is a community that needs to be addressed. So I'm glad that Highland Park is stepping up to the plate here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chair.
Okay, next item of business is public hearing PUD-2025-00055 for amendment to a special use permit in the nature of a plan development and design review with modifications from city code as appropriate at 445 Central Avenue. So now I need to read my statement. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. My name is Karen Moore. A quorum of the Plan and Design Commission being present, the members of the Plan and Design Commission will now introduce themselves for the record from my right.
Josh Nanis.
Danny Mantis.
Steve Kirch.
Ken Henry.
David Fettner.
The Plan and Design Commission is charged with hearing applications for rezonings, plan developments, and subdivisions under the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations of the City of Highland Park. In all matters, we recommend to the City Council based upon the testimony presented to us in the hearing. We are required to decide cases within 45 days after receipt of the transcript. All testimony is under oath. Both applicants and others who wish to speak on a particular case should present specific evidence as to why a proposal meets or fails to meet the standards for the relief requested. For clarity of our record, only one person at a time will speak and all questions will be directed through the chair. We ask that you make every effort not to be repetitive in your testimony. Finally, we will make every effort to adhere to the schedule prepared. For tonight's meeting, if additional time is needed on a matter, it will be continued until the next available agenda. With that, I open the floor for the staff to the Plan and Design Commission to read into the record proof of publication and ownership.
Proof of publication and ownership are available for viewing at the Offices of Community Development, 1150 Half Day Road in Highland Park. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. All right, Mr. Burhup, are you presenting this one as well?
Yes, thank you,
All right.
Chair.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park and the Community Development Department in the Planning Division. And so this is a plan development amendment for the property 445 Central Avenue downtown. I also point out that findings of fact are available if appropriate. The applicant asked for findings of fact for this. The project is to essentially allow B5 uses on the first floor. I do want to put a nuance or asterisk on that. I just have a few slides here. Okay, so the background, so this is a view of the property. I believe this formerly known as the Highland Park Theater. This is the Google Street View of it from last August, 2024. So the plan development for this property was approved in April of 2018, plan development and a development agreement. And so at that time, the POSO existed, the pedestrian-oriented shopping overlay district. And so that was captured specifically, not just generically by reference to the POSO, but specifically in Section 7, Condition C of the ordinance. And I just will read this really quickly. So, use and development of the subject property. The first floor of the building may be used only for restaurant and retail uses allowed in the B5 district and the zoning ordinance of the zoning ordinance and the postal district of the zoning ordinance. The second floor of the building is intended to be used for any office uses, but may be used for any use permitted in the B5 of the zoning district. So it's specific to retail and restaurant and retail uses allowed at the time. So this is what the applicant is asking. This is a snip of what the applicant is asking. And so here, let me just state what they want. So provided that one of the three spaces on the first floor of the building may be used for medical office purposes, and then another one of the three spaces of the building may be used for general office purposes. So that's what the applicant is asking here. I would just ask to clarify if the applicant just wants B5 uses, period, for all the tenant spaces on the first floor, but it's their application and they can ask for what they want to ask for. And so the POSA, the pedestrian-oriented shopping overlay zone, was eliminated in October of 2020. So what the applicant proposes has been allowed on other properties that don't have a PUD restriction like this since as the medical office is allowed in the B5 on the first floor, as is general office use and financial office uses. And again, so the way to see it is you have the zoning code, but then you have, in this case, you have a plan development. Plan developments are their own specific law for a property that supersede whatever the zoning code was. So even though the POSO has since gone, this is a restriction that's still specific to this property in this plan development. So that's why this is before the commission for recommendation. And that's why this will go to the city council, because
only the city council's authority to remove that specific condition from that ordinance for this PUD. Oh, yeah, and again, this is a land use consideration. There is no request for design review. There was a question with the tenant if there was going to be design review, but no, there's not. Again, if the future tenant wants to come forward or the property owner wants to come forward, that'd be a separate consideration for the future. So it's just a land use. I do want to talk about off-street parking real quick, and I actually have to make a modification. I have to make a correction from my staff report. It was a typo really in the report, because if you read it, you read on and it's like, oh, but wait, the staff report says there's a parking modification. So there is a modification request for this for off-street parking. And the commission is probably kind of used to this. So sometimes what happens is when an applicant does a PUD, they ask that there's a parking, let me back up a second. Our code is very specific for parking as well as land uses. And so in parking, it's very specific to land uses. And so to really know what the parking requirement is, the city has to know what is the specific use and what are the final floor plans and what are the allowed deductions for the gross floor area, the GFA. GFA is the gross floor area, and that's defined in section 150.202. There's deductions. What happens though, and this happens somewhat commonly, a lot of applicants, property owners, developers, when they're doing this, they don't always know those specifics when they come through for zoning entitlement. And so a lot of times what happens is they ask for generic relief that may or may not align years down the road with what actually comes in. And the commission may recall as recently as last year, there was a request for 555 Roger Williams for the first floor when they wanted to do restaurant uses, but staff pointed out, well, actually, this was approved for retail parking and restaurant has a much higher requirement in that zoning district. And so this does happen. And so long story short, the parking requirement for this property, for medical offices, which they do propose that for at least one tenant space, has a higher requirement. Now, again, what we would need to know as staff to know specifically is we would need to know what are all the final land uses you propose. And in addition, if you want to take your deductions, which would bring the parking down, we would need your design professional to design that now, lay out everything, mechanical spaces, bathrooms, inventory, office areas. Those are areas that can be deducted. And sometimes applicants don't always have that information. So long story short, if you take the extreme maximum, which would likely be medical office at 4.11 spaces per 1,000 square feet of GFA, as that's defined, the ground floor would require 34 spaces, and they only did 16, so the incremental difference on that would be 18. Are there any questions about that? That's a maximum. I hope I explained that reasonably well.
I just have a quick question. I know we removed the POSO in 2020.
Yes.
When was the building built?
Before that, the zoning approval, the zoning approval is in 2018. Building, I think the improvements occurred in 2019.
All right, so 2018-ish is when it was
2018 to
approved.
2019.
That included the POSO. Okay, thanks.
Sure. So Carl, as I understand what you're saying, the number of parking spaces is inextricably intertwined with the use.
That's right.
So if we were to say, let's say, which you kind of alluded to, or we alluded to at the beginning, that we just approved this for any B5 use, they would have to come back here at some point in time if they, let's say, put in a medical office and an office space to request relief for parking.
Well, right, unless you granted the parking modification now as part of this, correct. So that the purpose of my analysis here is to state that if in the future, the entire first floor became medical office and they didn't take any deductions for gross floor area, they would be 18 spaces short because the difference is 16 that are there now for the first floor versus the 34 that would be required.
Now,
go ahead.
If I may ask one other, are we allowed to take, in making that analysis, are we allowed to take into account that there's a city parking lot next door and a city parking lot across the street?
Oh, absolutely, sir, yes. Yes. So, right, and again, I mean, these types of requests do come before the commission and council, because like I said, just last year, there was the 555 Roger Williams, comparable, obviously different zoning district, different location in the city, but comparable in the fact that, know, you have a PUD approved 7, 8 years ago for certain parking, and the applicant now wants the flexibility to do different uses in that first floor. I don't, that's the gist of it, because this is a land use consideration, so the main two takeaways are, you know, the applicant specifically just asked for one tenant space to be the medical office and one tenant space to be the general office, though I would just question it. It's the applicant's petition if they just want the whole first floor just to be allowed for B5. And then just do realize that if medical office is used, that would, the commission needs to consider the parking modification.
I have a question, but if we approve it, all spaces there could be used for medical offices, correct?
That's right. Well, depending on what the applicant has asked for. I want to be clear that the applicant has asked for one tenant space to be medical office and one to be the general office. I want to be clear on that.
So if we approve it, we're just approving it for those 2 office spaces, it's not a blanket approval for all of those spaces to be used for medical offices?
No, but I think it's a worthy question to ask the applicant, though, if they do want that. I don't want to muddy the waters, but I think it's a worthy question to ask if they want that flexibility for their different tenant spaces down the road.
Okay.
And then the only other thing I will point out is if there are off-street parking modifications granted, there does have to be some type of public benefit with that. And I briefly, I did make the applicant aware of that. So that's just a question to put to the applicant as well. I can no longer recall, I do believe I did talk about the public benefit in the staff report, but if there are questions about that from what was done in 2018, but if there's questions for that, just please let me know. And I can look it up or pull it up.
Commissioner Henry.
Carol, if let's say we take the applicant's petition and give him or her or it the relief requested, isn't there's a relationship between the square footage of the medical office and the number of parking spaces required, correct?
Yeah, it should verify which tenant
And
spaces they are
retail
too.
and parking spaces.
That's right.
So we'd have to know that before we could even, we could make this change, but we'd have to take up the parking aspect of it sometime later, probably.
Well, again, unless, you can recommend it with a parking modification as part of this recommendation to council, because this is a PUD amendment, and so the council has the authority to modify that.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
The PUD is very holistic.
Okay, do we have any more questions for staff?
Can you just bring back up what it says currently in their PUD?
It's in italics there, the third bullet
thank
point.
you. Thank you.
Okay, would the applicant like to come up and speak on this matter? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
My
Please give us-
name is Scott Cannell, Canel.
Okay.
And I am the owner of Alabama Associates, which owns this building. Commissioners, I think it would be worthwhile for me to take a moment to explain to you the history of this building. This building is the former Highland Park Theater, and about 2017, the mayor and several members, this building was owned by the city. The mayor and several members of the city council approached me and asked me if I would consider purchasing the building from the city. I did that. And I also built the South Horry lot. So the beautiful South Horry lot that you see was built and paid for by me as part of this project. This building today, the second floor of the building is my family offices, so it's kind of like my home. And it's been frustrating not to be able to lease the ground floors. We've had 3 different brokerage firms work for us over the years trying to find retail or restaurant. To answer your questions, what I want to do with this, because it's a very personal space to me, is I have a developmentally disabled daughter, and I'm very involved with Keshet and the Keshet building at 799 Central Avenue. I want to put in the middle space something called Lindsay's Place, which is a restaurant that gives job training to developmentally disabled individuals. And I wanted to do that many years ago. But to do that, it would have made it quite difficult to rent this westernmost space, which is the largest of the spaces. I think it's about 3,200 square feet. The middle space where I want to put Lindsay's Place is about 2,500 square feet, and the eastern space is about 2,000 square feet. And I have Dr. Rachel Lefferdink, who is a dermatologist, but who also is going to put in a business or a service business that also has retail components to it. She has a phenomenal reputation in the community, and she's going to bring a lot of foot traffic to the area. And I think that's going to really help us in Lindsay's Place in the center space. And then with the last space, what we had wanted is to at least reserve the right to have it as office space. Otherwise, probably I would have to take it over and run it because it sits directly under my office. So that's what we have here. It is a PUD, and it was subject to the POSO, but then the pedestrian-oriented service overlay, but now that's gone. And so I can tell you categorically, I hope that you support us. I hope that you allow Dr. Lefferding to come in because she's going to spend over $1 million on this space. I have spent over $11 million on this space on something that if you were to put it up at market today, retail, I'd have a difficult time getting $7 million for it. I don't care. Highland Park is my home, and this was really a labor of love, and it still is a labor of love, but it is extremely important to me that, just as I know it is to all of you, that the right businesses go in there. And I really do think that Dr. Lefferding's business is the right business. It'll dovetail perfectly with what we want to do with Lindsay's Place, which is going to provide all sorts of benefits to the community, not just as a restaurant, but also from a social service standpoint, what it's going to do for kids at Highland Park High School, for kids at the Cove School in Northbrook, who are going to come and get job training there. And then with respect to the last space, I can pledge to you that we're not going to do it as a restaurant, absolutely not. And we are not going to do it as another medical office space because I understand what the parking situation is. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to give us any indication of what like a public benefit might be other than?
I think a public benefit that's commensurate with other situations, similar to other situations that you've had with respect to the medical parking, I'm happy to do that. We put a lot of public benefits in when we built it, including the crosswalk, including building the entire Ori lot and building it with the permeable pavers. So I don't have a problem giving the city a public benefit. I love the city. I'm happy to help it out.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, does anyone from the commission have questions for our applicant? Commissioner Henry.
Mr. Carroll, as I was speaking to the staff, your application is narrow, and it's in a B5 area. What if we just said, or what if this commission were just to recommend that you be allowed to do anything that's allowed in a B5?
That would be fine, but I want you to know exactly what I'm doing.
Understood.
Because I think it's important to me. I've been friends for 30, 40 years with many people, with the mayor and many people on the city council. And I want this space to really shine.
Can I make one comment?
Sure.
Also, depending on where the commission goes with on this, if the commission does adopt the findings of fact recommended approval, if there was any concern, because, from a staff perspective, when I had to estimate what the parking modification is, I got into the details on that, how we have to estimate if we don't always know the find users. If there was any concern, I can also just calculate it for the just one tenant space as a medical office, because that's the only space that would need the incremental relief.
Right, okay.
The office, retail, restaurant, none of that. All of that is the same requirements, actually table after table after table. It's all the same in the B5 district, just the medical table was different. So if there was any concern on the commission's part, if there was, and the commission wanted to adopt findings of fact this evening, but with a reduction on that, I could provide that number for the council meeting at a reduced number.
Okay, do we have any more questions for our applicant? Do we have any questions? Oh, do we have any questions from the public?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, a question from our city council member.
Thank you, Chair. Just a historical question. And I guess I would ask staff and the applicant. It was my understanding that there were multiple bids for the site. So typically, and I haven't been serving on city council long enough to know that the city wouldn't approach a single developer, right? They would put it, yeah.
I'm happy to tell you that.
Yeah.
That story as I understand it. So I was approached by the mayor and several city council members at a time when no one wanted this site. I said that I'd like to purchase the site, and what I wanted to build on the site was a 5-story Class A+ office building that would be family offices for several different families, and on the first floor, Lindsay's Place. And what happened then is the city put it out to bid. There were 8 bids, including former Mayor Geraci's 8-story theater and complex. There were many other many bids that were various iterations of condo complexes, all of which completely wiped out the South Ori lot. Okay, and the problem with my bid was to build my building, I needed sufficient parking. I had to go 2 stories underground. To get the ramp to go that far underground, I had to take out approximately 45 to 50% of the spaces in the South Ori lot. So when the voting came, the city asked for voting. The voting was done by internet. When the voting came in, the party that won the voting was a party that said, I'm going to take the theater and I'm just going to repurpose it as a market. And they won. But they couldn't come up with the money to pay the city the several $1 million that the city wanted for the site, and they couldn't put their deal together. And so then the city turned to me because I was willing and asked me, would you be willing to do a 2-story building as opposed to your 5-story building? And I said, yes, but the only way that I can afford to do that is if I actually move my family offices, which at the time were above the Highland Park Bank and Trust building, over into this building and just say, okay, we're just going to do that. We're going to do Lindsay's Place and we'll find 2 other spaces. Little did I know how difficult it would be to find tenants for those other 2 spaces because, you know, we did finish the building, I think around 2021. We moved in 2022 and we still don't have tenants, which is why we're here tonight.
Thank you. So there was a bidding process.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, if you've got a question, please come on up. You have to come all the way up to the microphone, please. All right, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please give us your name, spell your last name.
Stuart Flink, Flink.
Okay, and you have 3 minutes.
I've been a resident of Highland Park for 10 years. I live on 2087 Magnolia Lane off of Red Oak. I've known Scott Cannell for 55 years. We met our freshman year at Glenbrook North. He's a stand-up guy. And I'm one of the guys that he wants to have as a tenant. I have a global private equity fund that addresses water insecurity all over the world. I can put Highland Park on the map by myself. I have people from Cape Town, billionaires, coming in next month to visit me in Cannell's offices. And I'm serious about what I'm doing. I'm going to test the water in Highland Park for PFAS and microplastics. And then I'm going to show you guys the results. because I've invested in companies that can do that. One of them was a spin out of Princeton University. So I'm at risk here, and I could go anywhere. I don't really care. I could be in Lake Forest, Highland Park, Northbrook, Chicago, but I'd like to be part of Highland Park's future and help them grow. And if you put a restaurant in instead of my office, you're doing yourself and your citizens a big disfavor. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I know what I can do. I know what I can bring to Highland Park. I've got relationships all over the country that are billionaires. My minimum investment in my fund is $5 million. We're not talking about a mutual fund here. I have global impact, and people are going to come to see me in my office that Scott Cannell's going to build out for me. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments from the public? Come on up. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. My name's Dr. Rachel Lefferding, so I'm the dermatologist that's leasing the other space from Scott here, and I just wanted to take a minute to introduce myself, tell you that we've been working for over a year on the plans for the build out that we're going to do inside the space. We are spending quite a bit of money to make this a state-of-the-art, high-end dermatology office that we're excited to serve the community of Highland Park and provide that service in terms of dermatology. We also are building a sizable retail space in the front with a number of high-end dermatology skincare products and lines that are available for the general public to come in at any time and purchase. And we'll have consultation available for that. So I think that's of benefit to the overall community as well. Whether you can, even come to see me as a patient, which I hope everyone does. In addition, I think, as Scott said, with Lindsay's place idea, when I had no idea that was something that was in the works when we first started looking at the space. I just had been looking all over the North Shore for the right community, the right feel, the right aesthetic for what I have envisioned for the practice, and found the space. Later learned about Lindsay's place, and I think it would be a really symbiotic relationship with patients coming in, able to go there and interact with the staff. And I think that we could bring a lot of foot traffic and a sense of community to this space that has been empty for too long. So I'm happy to take any questions. It's lovely to meet you all.
Thank you. Any more comments from the public? I think not. Do we have any more questions from the commission for anybody? Okay, so I believe we are looking for a motion to adopt the findings of fact, recommending approval for the the change to the special use permit for 445 Central Avenue. So can I get a motion?
I have a question or discussion, if no more. It seems to me the solution here is simply to remove the condition, the conditions of the PUD and substitute them with the B5 zoning, and then to, along with that, grant the parking variation. And I would do that based on the public benefit that was provided previously. Again, with the parking situation, there's a parking lot right across the street, right? Everybody knows. Right next door. And right next door. So why are we arguing parking? I don't get it.
I'm kind of in agreement with Commissioner Kirsch. I mean, what's the point? Why not just turn this back into a B5 and let it run?
Oh, but we have to hear from everybody. So. Because it is a public discussion. All right. So.
Do we have an answer to that?
So, Commissioner Kirsch, or Vice Chair Kirsch, does the findings of fact include what you just said? the new findings of fact, that we remove those parts that refer to the POSO and kind of replace it with the general B5 requirements.
I would defer to Carl on that. I don't,
All right, so part A,
I mean, can we send these findings of fact to the city council with the understanding of what we just,
Yeah, I mean, so what you're saying is you'd like to remove the condition of approval and just allow the underlying zoning to pertain?
correct?
That's what I understood. That's it, then it's just recommend removal of this particular condition of approval in its entirety. There's nothing else. We're not substituting in B5. It's, unless you want to do a subset of uses from B5. If you're just saying the underlying zoning, then it should just be the underlying zoning district.
Would we
That was what-
have to make a finding that the improvements to the parking lot constitute the public benefit that might be required?
So no, it's not a finding. I mean, public benefit is required for modifications. The finding essentially is, does it meet the standards? It's proportional to the relief and the impact of the relief on the surrounding area. In terms of that development, so there was a sale of the property, which was the former HP Theater, Highland Park Theater. And the sale took place, and then the parking lot was reconstructed, as Mr. Kennel had said, as part of the negotiated deal sale for that was part of the deal in the end of the day.
There were two public benefits as part of this back in 2018. So the improvements to the Ori South parking lot, not all of it counted. What counted were the permeable pavers, new lights, and crosswalk. And then in addition, there were also streetscape improvements proposed that were part of the public benefit for the project. Right. I'm just reading from the staff report from City Council 2018.
So there was the reconstruction of the parking lot, but the permeable paver aspect was the public benefit, not the complete reconstruction of the lot.
Just to be clear on that. Thank you.
If I may.
oh, yes, please.
Council, is there any limitation or obstruction to the commission just recommending that it turn back into a B5?
No,
I
not
have
at all.
to defer to council.
Well, I was talking to council, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Council, not council.
Different types of council.
SEL, not CIL, exactly right.
No, actually, and the motion here, if you wish, could be to amend the SUP to strike the POSO. So simply put, there's no need to mention the B5. It's within the B5. The B5 regulations would automatically,
Striking condition 7, this 7C.
Right.
Section 7, condition C.
Heavy hitter. Another council.
Don't forget to swear him in too.
No, I am your attorney, so, you don't have to swear me in. Steve Elrod, Corporation Counsel, and I lived through this with Mr. Cannell. We negotiated this deal together. We worked very closely together. His statement of the history is very accurate. One thing to note, actually, he sold us a portion of the property and we sold him a portion of the property. There's actually a land swap that was involved. This condition was actually part of the real estate contract. As part of the deal where we were selling the property to Mr. Cannell, we required this to be included in any zoning relief. And therefore it is now in the zoning relief. If your desire is to eliminate it based on the testimony that you heard, based on conditions of today, Marcus Martinez is absolutely correct. All you need to do is recommend that the PUD be amended to eliminate this condition. It will therefore be subject to the underlying zoning, which is B5.
Okay, thank you.
But the question is also the park, right? What are we setting ourselves up to force them to come back on parking if
If I may, if you make this change, they'll be able to do whatever uses are allowed in the B5. And if you grant parking relief, as Carl mentioned, which is for the most parking intensive use there, then no. They will not need to come back if that's the intent of the commission.
So that's two aspects.
What's the appropriate motion?
Okay, so hang on a second. So if you read through the findings of fact, it does already remove the references to the POSO, is that correct?
It removes this condition,
Okay.
correct? Correct,
So,
Carl?
I'm looking.
We're going to check to make sure that's the fact.
Oh, yeah, it does say that.
yeah.
So just simply move the
So I think
condition.
if we adopt the findings of fact, we've kind of covered all that with the POSO.
Okay.
It's no longer, it will no longer be in there if we adopt these findings of fact. So I guess I would, oh, yes.
Do the findings of fact, this is for Carl perhaps, I think they address the relief for the parking then, for the medical office, I guess, level of use intensity? What I'm trying to get at is simply adopting the findings of fact, are we taking care of the parking relief now, or is that added?
Well, the findings of fact are written in the way I wrote it. It is written in a way that that the commission was recommending a modification to allow medical use beyond the ground floor as well. So yes.
So we would have to specifically also adopt the relief as to the parking.
Kind of addresses it in proposed finding 6, as I'm reading it.
Under the special use standards? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're reading
Oh,
parking.
right,
areas.
right. And if you want to amend that on the record with any type of sentence or statement, that can certainly be done.
Just to clarify, so it's not ambiguous.
Yeah. Make it simple.
So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to put a final kind of answer on this, I think we then take care of this if your desire is to revert this back to the B5, remove all the conditions from 2018, adopt the findings of fact as you usually would.
Yes, because it does say in that section 6, in the amendment, the commission finds the off-street parking modification is acceptable and that restaurant uses approved for the ground floor previously generally create more parking demand than medical office uses. And I think there's enough parking in the area that we can allow that. So I think if we adopt the findings of fact, it seems like it covers all of the issues regarding the POSO and any other constraints like that, and it covers the parking.
Yeah, and I can, even if you wanted to amend just a statement like, I can add somewhere, in the commission recommends modification to the parking requirements for anything in the medical use table of section 150.490. So that's the only concern. The other one's restaurant, retail, office.
Yeah.
It's all the same requirement.
Right. Would we like that statement in this, commission? Would we like to see that statement included?
Sure.
Okay, so can we need a motion to approve the findings of fact with the addition of the conditions stated regarding the parking as Carl spoke.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Let's get it done.
So all those in favor, we'll need any more discussion? No. All right. Mr. Fontaine, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Pettner.
Aye.
Commissioner Nanis.
Aye.
Commissioner Henry.
Aye.
Commissioner Mantis. Aye. Vice Chair Kirsch.
Aye.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
The ayes have it, the motion carries. This item has been approved, recommended approval, as stated, and with those amendments to the findings. Thank you,
Great,
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Last but not least.
Not least.
All right, we move on to public hearing 2025. Okay, as you leave, please keep it down. 2025-CTA-002 for a zoning code text amendment to modify, strike, or create definitions and regulations regarding timeshare related uses, sorry. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. Excuse me in the back there.
I think we opened this one already.
This is open, we continue, I don't have to read this all. I
Got
do
you
not
out of
know. No, thank you. All right, so we're reopening this public hearing about the zoning code text amendment regarding timeshare-related uses. So, Mr. Burhop, do you have something for us?
Yes, thank you. A brief presentation. Good evening, everybody. My name is Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park, the Community Development Department, and the Planning Division. So thank you, Madam Chair. This is a public hearing for zoning code text amendment to modify, strike, or create definitions and regulations regarding timeshare-related uses. So very quick, I only have a few slides. Commission should reopen the public hearings. The public hearing should take public testimony, if any, and provide feedback about whether and to what extent the zoning code should be amended to prohibit or otherwise regulate timeshare related uses. Very briefly, this zoning text amendment was directed back on January 27th, 2025 by the City Council, and the Commission had its first consideration on May 6, 2025. That was the first public hearing. I will point out that there were comments received from the public that were in the packet, as well as I did get new comments today. And so I did distribute those. I have those hard copy if anyone in the audience wants them, but they will be included in the future packet as well. They were public comments we received today. There are no findings of fact in the packet. If appropriate, the commission can direct findings of fact for a future meeting or continue if more information is needed. Background analysis, I'll go over this real short because I think the first two bullet points or first two or three were covered last time. So in general, timeshares are often, though not necessarily associated with either vacation or some type of limited, non-overlapping shared use, similar to short-term rentals in terms of land use externalities, occupancy, turnover by individuals or groups. Moreover, timeshare-related uses are also similar to hotel motel establishments, including those with extended stay arrangements. And then I'll just follow up with the fourth bullet point, one of the follow-up staff provided is we do, where we do research, we try to take a sampling of municipalities in the area. We looked at 21, I looked at 21 total municipalities, was able to find 2 that identify the phrase or term timeshare or similar and offer their definitions of short-term rentals that's related to that. So proposed amendments, so there was a draft ordinance in the packet. And so I'll just run through that really quick. I think I only have this and 2 more slides. So this is proposed amendment to section 150.202. So there's a definition, an existing definition in the code for short-term rental. And then it adds to that timeshare-related uses right there. And then here is a definition. It was included in the packet for timeshare-related uses. I won't read off the bulk of the text. This was in the packet as well. And then in addition, a proposed amendment, in addition to section 150.404 to add a subsection E, that timeshare-related uses as an accessory or principal use is prohibited within single-family residential uses. And then finally, amending the land use table in section 150.490 to make it explicitly clear that this type of use would be allowed as a principal use, as a conditional use in those districts enumerated there, the B3 highway commercial, the different B4 districts, the B5 downtown commercial, downtown central business district, the I light industrial district, and the CDRO, which is a residential overlay district downtown. These by the way, those use permissions match those that are allowed for hotels and motels. And I can take questions if any.
All right, so does the commission have any questions at the moment?
I have one.
Sure, Commissioner Kirch.
We discussed fractional ownership last time. And we are apparently lumping that in as a timeshare-related use, is that correct?
Madam Chair, Corporation Counsel Steve Elrod is here with us this evening as
Wonderful.
well.
Would he like to come up and answer that question?
He might want to do that.
Oh, boy, we're really racking it up tonight.
If I bill by the word, maybe I can just say yes. The answer is yes, we are including.
It's my understanding that they're not the same, that timeshare generally refers to a right of use, whereas a fractional ownership is actually a deeded property. Am I wrong in that?
It depends on how you are using it. We have, if you go to the slide, we have provided a broad definition of something we're calling timeshare-related uses. We describe the type of fractional ownership, which is part of an arrangement pursuant to a plan agreement or other arrangement, and then we incorporate by reference the state of Illinois definition for timeshare. So it's a broad definition, fractional ownership subject to the arrangement, plan, or agreement concept, and then incorporate by reference the timeshare definition.
Thank you.
While I'm here, Madam Chair and members of the commission, I do want to point out, if I may, the reason that this is before you. This is a city council initiated petition. The city council determined at its meeting in January, when it adopted a resolution initiating this petition, that there's a concern here. There's a concern and there's probably confusion in our code. I think the confusion is evidenced big time in the letter you received from the petitioner's attorney about what our code requires and what it does not require, and where there may be gaps. And as you are aware, and as we made clear in the staff report, where something is not regulated at all, it is prohibited. That is the way in which our code is to be interpreted, period. And so to be certain that there is no further confusion, the council has asked that we clarify its long-stated intention by adding the prohibition, at least in single-family residential, of this particular type of use. The council thinks that that's appropriate prohibition in the single-family residential neighborhood. Question also came up, and it seems to be inferred by an attorney letter that's in our package, that this is targeted at a specific property. It is not. We are grateful that the situation concerning a property on Point Lane in Highland Park brought the issue to our attention, but this is targeted for the entire city of Highland Park in our all single-family residential districts.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments?
And I'll be happy to respond further after other comment.
Okay, for sure.
That's all, Madam Chair, from staff.
Okay, does the applicant wish to, do we have an applicant?
We're the
I'm sorry, it's getting late.
Do you have folks from the audience and
But we
there's a
may have
public
some
hearing?
members from the public who would like to speak. Do we have any members from the public who would like to speak? Please come up. Have you been previously sworn on this issue? I don't recognize you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, I'll need your name and the spelling of your last name.
Yes, it's Alex Ulyanov,
Okay.
Ulyanov. Might you want to get sworn in too? Might as well.
Are you guys gonna?
We have one address that's longer than 3 minutes, so we're gonna split it.
Okay, why don't we swear you in as well? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes, and what's your name, please?
Michael Fridus, Fridus, and I live at 1555 Museum Drive.
Okay. All right, you guys have 3 minutes apiece.
Thank you. Members of the Plan and Design Commission. My name is Alex Ulyanov, and I live at 2670 Point Lane. And I'm joined by my neighbor, Michael Fridus, who lives at 1555 Museum Drive. Today, we stand before you to represent the residents of Point Lane and Museum Drive, collectively known as Architecture Point, in strong support of the proposed legislation concerning timeshares and fractional ownership, specifically prohibiting such ownership in single-family residential zones. I respectfully ask those whom I represent to stand to make their presence known to the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our community has recently been affected by a situation that underscores the urgency of this legislation. Last fall, John Cooper purchased the former Michael Jordan property with the express intent to commercialize it. Among his proposed commercial ventures is a plan to sell fractional ownership of the property, potentially in week-long increments, to as many as 52 separate owners. These intentions have been clearly communicated in materials sent directly to the affected neighbors and also publicly posted on Mr. Cooper's website. Copies of these communications have also been submitted to the city for the record. Mr. Cooper's proposal highlights that a key attraction of these fractional shares lies in using the property not as a primary residence or even a vacation home, but as a venue to host large events such as weddings, bar mitzvahs, charity galas, and private parties. This would effectively turn a quiet residential enclave into a revolving door event space, introducing significant disruptions in the form of noise, traffic, litter, safety concerns, and a decline in neighborhood character. The impact on surrounding property values, particularly for homes on Point Lane and Museum Drive, could be severe and lasting, and frankly, driving property values to zero. Although the current zoning regulation in Highland Park may not explicitly prohibit this type of fractional use, we believe Mr. Cooper's plan undermines the spirit and the intent of R2 zoning, which exists to preserve the neighborhood's single-family home used primarily as full-time residences. By exploiting an unregulated loophole in the form of fractional ownership, his proposal threatens to establish a commercial enterprise in the heart of a residential community, an outcome that benefits only a single property owner while harming all others nearby.
To continue Alex's comments, I just want to make it clear that when people stood up, that represented 100% of the people who live on Museum Drive and Point Lane. It was everybody. To continue Mr. Cooper's Alex's comments. Furthermore, the example of Mr. Cooper using fractional ownership to harm surrounding residents and the broader community is just the tip of the iceberg. If not explicitly prohibited, this type of commercial use disguised as residential ownership would undoubtedly spread beyond Architecture Point, threatening other neighborhoods across Highland Park. This trend runs counter to the very fabric of what Highland Park stands for, a peaceful, family-oriented residential community, not a resort town, and notably one without hotels or designated vacation zones. The operation of a timeshare business, including fractional ownership models, is fundamentally commercial in nature, involving the sale of vacation shares, maintenance services, and profit-generating activity, entirely misaligning with the city's residential zoning. Introducing such a business would bring hundreds of transient visitors annually, far outnumbering the residents living in these communities, and pose serious concerns about traffic, safety, and crime. The constant influx of strangers risks jeopardizing the security and character of our neighborhood, especially for families, and we have many, with children playing outdoors and walking nearby. Additionally, large-scale occupancy brings the potential for increased waste, pests, and the need for commercial infrastructure like dumpsters, further eroding the residential feel. Permitting timeshare operations in Highland Park would set a dangerous precedent, devaluing property and deterring future home buyer citywide. Residents have a fundamental right to a safe, stable, and peaceful living environment, one that is incompatible with commercial vacation enterprises. So we, entirely 100%, perhaps with one exception, the residents of Architecture Point stand united in urging the Commission to support legislation that prohibits the use of fractional ownership for short-term, non-residence commercial purposes. This legislation would help close a critical gap in current regulation, one that otherwise allows business operations to masquerade as residential ownership to the detriment of peaceful community living. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak on this matter?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Carl Kimalucci.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I have a business card for the note taker so she can have my name. First name is Karl, last name is Camillucci. I'm a partner in the Taft Law Firm in Chicago, and I represent Champions Point LLC, which is the owner of the property at 2700 Point Lane, and which, even though this proposed amendment allegedly was not proposed in response to our property has been discussed almost exclusively here tonight. I have prepared remarks that I can submit for the record, and I also previously submitted a letter to the commission, which I would like to formally ask be made part of the record. But instead of going through those prepared remarks, I'd like to first respond to a couple of the things that have already been said. I want to be clear, there's absolutely no confusion about what's allowed by the Highland Park zoning code with respect to fractional ownership of a single-family home. It's not specifically regulated, it's allowed because it's part of a single-family dwelling use, and that's specifically permitted in the table of allowable uses. Just as rental of a single-family home for a period longer than 30 days is not specifically enumerated in the table of allowable uses in the zoning code, neither is fractional ownership of a single-family home. Yet nobody here would say that a homeowner could not rent their home for a period of a year at a time because it's not specifically identified in the table of allowable uses. That would be preposterous. Same is true here. The applicant's proposal, Champion Point, not the applicant, Champion's Point's proposal is merely to allow multiple owners of the same building and for each of those owners to use it during specific periods of time for a single family dwelling use. That land use is a single family dwelling use, which is permitted by right in the R2 district where this property is located, as well as other single family residential districts. So there's no confusion here. The notion that it is not permitted has only come up post hoc after the Champions Point's plans for the property became public and neighbors became concerned and the city became concerned. That prompted staff to ask the city council to consider regulation of timeshare related uses in the first place, and the city to subsequently take the position, which is internally inconsistent, that although the zoning code already prohibits fractional ownership of a single family home, nevertheless, the city council should adopt a new ordinance specifically prohibiting it. All of this is described in greater detail in the letter that I submitted, and I'm sure that you've read, so I won't go into it any further. For Champions Point, this is just about basic fairness. You know, I have a couple of daughters. One's almost 10 years old, the other is 8 years old, and sometimes they like to play rock, paper, scissors. The two of them say 1, 2, 3, shoot, and they both put out their hands in the shape of a rock, a paper, or a scissor. And the older daughter, if she wins, she says, I win. But if she loses, she says, wait, best 2 out of 3. And then my younger daughter says to me, that's no fair. Well, that's the same thing that's happening here. If the city council adopts and enforces this new text amendment against Champions Point at 2700 Point Lane, it will be changing the rules of the game in the middle. After Champions Point has already expended millions of dollars acquiring the property and organizing itself and setting itself up to allow fractional ownership of the property under the city's current zoning ordinance. Now the rules would change. Like my younger daughter would say, that's no fair.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up because your time is up.
Thank you. I would only like to point out further that there's a new issue in the staff memorandum for this meeting that wasn't in the staff memorandum for your previous meeting. And that is that for the first time, the memorandum analogizes fractional ownership and timeshare related uses to a hotel motel use rather than what previously was the analogy, which is short-term rental. I just want to say for the record, and therefore, for the first time, the ordinance and the memo now say that fractional ownership or timeshare related uses would be allowed as a conditional use in all of the zoning districts in which a hotel motel use would be allowed. There is no analogy between fractional ownership on the one hand and a hotel motel use on the other. The definition of a hotel motel use hinges on being open to the public for use by transient guests. In effect, anybody could walk into a hotel at any moment and book a room, assuming there's a vacancy, without having to reserve it in advance. The definition of hotel motel distinguishes that from a lodging house or a boarding house, where there isn't transient use and there is not open to the public because lodging is only made available by reservation in advance. This is completely different from both of those things, where only owners of membership shares within the LLC would have the right to use the property. It would not be open to transient use as that term is defined in the zoning ordinance. It would not be open to members of the public who just want to stop by like they would for a hotel and book a room. Only members who have an ownership interest in the LLC would have a right to use the home, and in each case only for a set period of time where they would be the exclusive users. So there would not be a parade of people traveling through the house each period of time. It would be the owner and their family and any guest that they might have at that time. I realize that I've overgone my time, but I'm available to answer any questions or respond to any other comments that may be made. And I'd also like, who may I provide a copy of the prepared remarks to for the record?
To Mr. Burhop.
Thank you. And I can also provide a PDF tomorrow if that's easier for your record-keeping purposes.
Thank you.
Can we, Madam Chair, I just want to make sure that, Carl, we received written testimony today that we've circulated to you, and want to make sure that that's made part of the record as well. Madam
Okay,
Chair.
yes.
Okay.
Did we print that?
Who
Was
is-
that printed
who
out
is
for us
that
to
from?
read?
The Serlins.
Please say it for the record.
So there were comments received today from the Serlins that I did email to the commission, and I will include in a future packet. And if anybody wants a hard copy, I do have hard copies, though I'll just put it up here real quick. This is the first page. This is the second page. This is the third. This is the fourth. And this is the fifth page. So this is what was submitted and what came in. And it will be in a future packet as well, of
Wonderful.
course, so it's available for public inspection.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, do we have other members of the public who wish to speak? All right, ma'am, please come up. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do, okay.
Paula
And then,
Serlin,
okay,
2650 Point Lane.
okay, can you make sure she got your name?
First name? Paula. Thank you. I just want to remark to the attorney for Mr. Cooper, while it is not a hotel, in a sense it's being used as a hotel. Many of the timeshares are in hotels or like Disneyland, small bungalows attached. Yes, there are strangers going in and out, but Mr. Cooper has said, and he has said to all of us, that he plans on allowing 20 people at a time in that timeshare, which means you have an owner and then you have perhaps 19 other people there. Those people are transient. They are not the owner. They are people he's invited. A timeshare can be sold to other people for partial use. A timeshare is a business. The owner of the property is running a business. He is operating a business. And that in itself is not a timeshare. The person that has purchased those units, that may be a timeshare, but in order to have a timeshare, you have to have somebody who is operating it, and that is a commercial type property, and it does not belong in our neighborhood. And we should not have, we are 19 people besides that property, 6 of which are children. We should not have, if you have 20 weeks sold, because it's Chicago, you might not get a whole 52. You've got 400 people going in and out of that property. We are 19 people. Can you imagine the music, the noise? It doesn't fit with our way of living. children have to study, infants have to sleep. We can't have all that noise. We can't have all that garbage because it will attract rats, mice, flies. It's being changed into a commercial property, even with the name timeshare. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come on up. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and name and spelling, please?
Dr. Cameron Hari, last name is spelled H-A-E-R-Y, 1530 Museum Drive. H-A-R-Y. I'm sorry, H-A-E-R-Y.
And is the camera with a C?
Cameron, C-A-M-E-R-O-N. I did not intend to speak in person at the podium today to the council, but I feel compelled to do so after having heard Mr. Cooper's remarks. I moved to Highland Park about 12 years ago with the specific intent of raising my family, starting a family and raising a family in this particular neighborhood and the home that we have purchased. We are the quintessential Highland Park residential family. My parents live in Highland Park, and after I went to medical school, after I did my residency, my fellowship, established a career in Chicago, I decided to come back to the residential neighborhood of Highland Park for what it stands. This is not only about Architecture Point. This is indeed about Highland Park. It's indeed about establishing a precedent why people come to Highland Park, why Highland Park is such a magnificent village. It's because of the residential community that we have. It's not because of the commercialization of the residential communities. Now, I came in a little bit early from work, and I heard all the other wonderful, presentations in the commercial districts of Highland Park. That's what this council is here for, to determine what is appropriate commercially, the zoning, the legalities of it. I'm a physician, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a commissioner. But we are not talking only about Architecture Point tonight. We're talking about the residential nature of Highland Park, and we're talking about the spirit of the zoning law. The spirit of the zoning law is such that people who purchase properties in Highland Park to raise their families, they can be rest assured that those laws and those zoning and the spirit of the zoning will not be changed. So whether it's explicitly stated or not, that's up to you all as attorneys and commissioners and the leaders of Highland Park. But the spirit of the zoning is what we're discussing now. And the spirit of the zoning is what's being bastardized by this proposal to commercialize Architecture Point. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have anybody else from the public who wishes to speak? I'm going to ask Mr. Friedman to, Mr. Elrod, sorry, come on. We have 10 more minutes of meetings. I'm going to try to get through everything here. So.
We'll make it, we'll make it.
We'll make it, we'll make it.
So I'm speaking as your corporation counsel
so
and as
can
the
you
attorney for the applicant.
Okay, so can you speak to the legality of running a business from a home in Highland Park? Which I know you're allowed to run some businesses from home, but there's a limit to like the number of people who can attend.
Well, it must be accessory to the primary use or the principal use as a single-family residence. We allow home occupations, but in a very limited source. It has to be truly accessory to the primary purpose of using the house or the dwelling as a single-family dwelling. And so I hope that answers your question. If the use, on the other hand, is being used primarily or principally for a business, that would not be allowed in the single-family district. That would not be a home occupation under our code.
Well, and then I think also if you do have a home occupation that's an accessory use, you still are only allowed to have like 3 people at a time.
We have rules that govern hours of operation, certain types of deliveries, number of guests, number of visitors, et cetera. All of those are part of our our home occupation requirements.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody?
Madam Chair,
Oh,
before
yes.
you get to your questions, I do want to, on behalf of the city, just respond. One sort of recurring theme this evening, and I think it's important to get out on the table. I truly do appreciate the neighbors that are in the area of the of Point Lake in Architecture Point, and I appreciate their coming here tonight and being so articulate and so eloquent and passionate in their view about the particular property that has brought the matter to our attention. And I understand why they're here. The nature of the letters and the communications that they are getting from the owner of the particular piece of property, the threats, the ultimatums, the ransom, it's deplorable. It is truly deplorable, and it's not what we are accustomed to in the city of Highland Park. So I appreciate why they're here, but I want to make it clear that the city of Highland Park's application, our petition, is for all single family. It's for the entire city of Highland Park. Yes, it may have been brought to our attention because of this particular use, and we appreciate when things are brought to our attention. In a town like ours, many things are brought to our attention by neighbors. That's how we operate. When matters are brought to our attention, and we appreciate that. But our petition is citywide. It is not aimed or directed at the particular piece of property that Mr. Camelucci spoke about.
Thank you. Anybody on the commission have any questions at the moment?
Any questions? I may have some comments on it. I think that some of the things that were said, I'm looking at this independently outside of Architecture Point, right? And if this came before us or before me to do timeshare and single family residence in Highland Park, I can't see a path forward to approving it. I understand, in some other beachfront communities or something, but it just doesn't make sense here. And I also see where if it's not in the code, and I petition for certain type of approvals all over the country, different boards. If it's not in the code, it's usually not an approved type.
It's not allowed.
It's not allowed. It's just not. You either have to get a special use permit or conditional. It's just not something that's allowed. So that's very consistent. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I can't see any way where I would approve a timeshare to single family.
Yes, Commissioner Mantis.
I don't know what the question is. I guess I'm struggling to understand what the mechanics of a timeshare are. Just in terms of, if you have multiple owners, who is the title holding entity? And at what point does money exchange become rent? And that's the part that I don't have enough exposure to timeshares to fully grapple with. So I don't know if our corporation counsel can expand on that or edify me, or if there's even time tonight.
So there is chapter and verse on timeshare, and it means different things in different states, but it is a form of ownership where fractions of the property are divided pursuant to an agreement that allow specific times of use of the property across a time period, a year, a month, a week. And it is very popular in vacation destinations in Mexico, but it is not very common in suburban Chicago. And that is why we believe it's actually prohibited already in our code. But just to make it clear and to prevent any misunderstanding, we are here before you to clearly prohibit it.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Henry.
What if there were 20 tenants in common? How would this deal with that?
If there were 20 tenants in common, it would cover them only if they had an agreement for use of the property, operating pursuant to an agreement. That's how we get them into the concept of a timeshare. I'd be concerned if there are 20 tenants in common of a piece of property as well. We have single family residential uses in our, that's what we zone and cover in our code.
Well, and again, like you, Commissioner Mantis, I don't own a timeshare. I do not have a legal background. But it seems to me that the real concern was when it leapt forward to, now we're gonna rent out the house for a party, and now turning into like truly a commercial enterprise. And that's where I think the concern is, and I don't know if there's a way to like write a zoning text amendment that allows for a timeshare but does not allow for abuse of the property in some manner.
We examined that, Madam Chair. I mean, we appreciated the concern, once it was identified of what could happen. I mean, the concern as expressed is that if there was a separate owner or user using the property each week, they would want to use it for uses that are not similar to other single-family residential. They'd use it for a party, they'd use it for a wedding, they'd use it for some major event. Not that a party or wedding or a major event couldn't occur at any one of our single-family residential houses in Highland Park, but we rest comfortably with the way our zoning code is currently drafted with generally, because that doesn't occur. It doesn't occur on a weekly basis in houses in Highland Park. If it did, we would look to see if and it became a problem, we'd look to regulate it. That's how most of the regulations in our municipal and our zoning code have developed. They weren't conceived of in 1960, but when the code was first drafted, but as years went on and technology and uses and other things evolved, we create regulations.
Yes. All right, so I am sorry to say that I do not think we can come to a conclusion on this matter tonight, so I would look for a motion to continue to a date certain, and perhaps, Carl, you can give us an idea of a date certain.
Okay, so we recommend a date in the regular meeting in August, so that would be Tuesday, August 19, here, this location. It's a 7 PM meeting.
And do we need findings of fact on this, or do we just make a recommendation to the council? Flat out.
We could have findings of fact for you for that meeting.
By then, yeah. Yeah, if you could, that would be great, because I know that it's an awfully long time, and I know people do want answers.
And would you like us to prepare the findings of fact in the affirmative, recommending approval of the ordinance?
I would, yeah. I mean, nice as it would be for Highland Park to be a big tourist destination, I've never heard of fractional ownership being used outside of vacation. So I don't get this at all, but the whole, I don't know. I mean, poor Michael, his house sat vacant for so long, and, now this.
Poor guy.
We're happy to do that, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. We're closed for comments for this tonight. We will bring it up again in August, so save your comment for August or send it in.
Continue the public hearing.
Oh, yeah.
So just a minute, please. So I would suggest that you send any comments to Carl and he'll distribute them. But in the meantime, we need a motion for continuing this on August 19th.
As well as directing findings of fact.
And asking for findings of fact.
All right, Madam Chair, if I may, I would move that we ask staff to draft findings in fact in favor of this zoning code text amendment to modify, strike, or create definitions, regulations regarding timeshare-related uses, and that we continue this matter to our regular meeting on August 19th. 19th.
Second.
Do you want to call the roll? Is this a roll call?
This is a voice.
Voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Okay.
So the public hearing for this matter has been continued to August 19th, 7 PM, City Hall, City Council Chambers, that's this room. There'll be no additional notice of that public hearing. Your notice is actual here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you all for your patience and for coming. We always do like citizen participation.
Entertainment like this anywhere else.
Okay.
Chair,
All right,
This guy is a CBA member.
Chair, I wanted to, before you adjourn, I wanted to say something.
That's up to you. You spoke testimony.
okay, we're not done yet, so if you would like to exit and continue your conversations outside, that would be appreciative so that we can finish. It is very late and people would like to go home.
I second that.
Sorry, all right. So do we have time real quick to do an administrative design review update? Is there anything for that?
Oh, there are two, both for fences for 850 and 874 Central Street. There were already fences there. They replaced them, the commercial properties. They're administrative. They comply by right with the height and the material requirements.
Great, thank you so much. Our next regular meeting is June 24th, which is next Tuesday, is that correct?
That is correct. Special meeting.
It is,
Sure, read it.
oh, it says both, so there was a typo. It is a special meeting at the Moraine, so back at the former Highland Park Country Club Rec Center at 1201 Park Avenue, Highland Park, Illinois. So that will just be the former Solo Cup Company property, is that correct?
That's correct. That'll be the only item on that agenda, yes.
1700 Old Deerfield Road.
June 20th.
Okay, June.
Continued public hearing.
Continued hearing, correct.
1 week from today.
1 week from today.
Okay.
Start your engines. All right, do we have a case briefing that we need to be aware of?
Yes, Madam Chair. So the City Council directed staff to prepare approval documents and a subdividers agreement for 711 Lincoln, the subdivision of 9 lot subdivision, a former Lincoln School property. And also directed staff to prepare approval documents for the Glenview and Green Bay 22-unit townhome development. That's the end of my report.
Great, thank you. Any business from the public? There's no public left? They've abandoned us. They have good TV to go watch at home.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that case, can we get a motion to adjourn?
No,
So moved.
excuse me, I was trying to say something,
directed.
but it's more humorous than anything else, but with the number of sort of challenging agenda items, I had gotten, I'll just say expert advice to just say defer to council, and I had that at the ready. So when Vice Chair Kirsch addressed council, it was literally right off the top of my tongue. But I do want to say thank you for, I know it was a long night and a lot on the agenda.
I think this will not be our first long night. All right, so can we get a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Meeting is adjourned.